You are now entering Maximum Driftcast, the only drifting podcast hosted by a Spanish soccer mom, a 30-year-old silver-haired fox going on 60, and finally, a 200-pound bowl of spaghetti with chimichanga arms.
The champions, we are the champions.
Hey, what's up, guys? This is Dylan Hughes. I'm here at Maximum Driftcast. I'm not PIR today.
What are you doing?
Dude, get out of the way. Dylan, go back to PIR.
What
Hi.
is this bit?
Hello-
You're starting
hello.
this very important
Hello.
show with Paco.
Oh, hi. Hi. This is
No, hold on.
Maximum
You can't
Driftcast.
just- you can't just, discount that bit you were trying to do. Please break down the bit.
Okay, so that was supposed to be Dylan Hughes introducing
Okay.
the show.
And is he at Phoenix International Raceway or is he at PRI?
PRI.
Oh,
Why?
okay.
What's he doing there?
I don't know. What is he
You
doing?
got to come up with some
Let-
background. to
let
your
me
bit.
ask him.
You can't
Dylan,
just
what-
throw a wild bit.
Dylan, why are you at PRI? I'm just like pitching my
Stop.
formal.
Stop.
That hurts.
Can we start the show over, Dads? Dads, do you mind? Can we just hit the reset?
Hard reset.
Yeah,
All
yeah.
right.
Control
Thanks,
delete
Dad.
twice.
Let,
All right, Control, delete.
let Jim do the intro.
No. We don't need an
We're gonna
intro.
go- all right, Sam, I'm gonna count.
These men need no intro. I would say just the only intro I'd say is, you're about to enter the Dadlands.
Oh.
And that's, so it's like the Badlands, but it's Dadlands because Ryan and Jim, the founders of Formula Drift, we've oft referred to them as the Drift Dads. And the dads are here with us today on this very fine day. We like to talk to them once or twice a year. I'd talk to them every damn night if I could. Sometimes
Yeah.
we do. We text late into the night talking about
Yeah.
drifting. But they are here to do the breakdown. We're going to finally put a nice, neat bow on 2019. Never
Yep.
talk about it again. Not because it was bad, but because 2020 is coming. And 2020 has lots of exciting, cool things, which we're going to dive deep into. We are, of course, live on YouTube if you're listening to it live with us. Otherwise, if you're listening to it tomorrow or months or years down the road, tough luck. Can't do anything about it. But if you're on YouTube and you want to throw down a super chat, we'll try to get to that question sometime during the show. If not, we'll hit it at the end during the question section. And that's it. Welcome, Ryan. Welcome, Jim, Corey, Paco, Big Balls at the Controlium. Welcome, everyone.
Hi.
Welcome welcome all. It's nice to be here with you.
Now, Ryan, you've got a dog painting in the background. I feel like we've talked about this dog painting before.
Yeah.
What's up with that dog painting? Let's get to the hard facts here.
That's a painting of my dog. Yeah,
Oh, very good. Bravo.
I got
And
that
Jim-
as a Christmas present last year.
That's excellent. And Jim, for the audio only, he's sitting wearing all black in a white void. I think
He's in heaven.
or limbo or hell. What do you need
Or
to
a
accomplish?
psych ward. Psych ward.
Psych ward, yep.
I checked myself into a psych ward after the end of the season, and I've been here since then.
Oh, that's awesome. And then you're wearing the new 2020 padded, what do they call a straight jacket? CFD branded straight jacket. And Sage is wearing a Sage jacket. And that's the first dad joke, so it wasn't very good. I'll try again better later. Guys, Corey, Paco, before we begin things, anything you want to tell these dads?
Can I go to the
This
party
is
this
what-
weekend? Dads?
Is there a party this weekend? Are they throwing one?
I'm asking dads. I mean, if they let me go out to the party, you get it?
What party?
Yes.
Oh, it's my
you can go, son.
my friend
Yeah, there-
Tyson's
there
throwing
it
a
is.
party at
Okay,
his house.
go.
Yeah.
Paco, this is confusing for you. These are drift dads, not real dads. They're
Oh.
real dads. I
Oh.
mean, but they're the dads of Formula Drift, not your specific dad. Maybe by the end of the show, if you exhibit good behavior, they might adopt you.
Take me under the.
Hmm.
Oh, wait. Are they both dads?
No, Ryan
Oh.
Sage is a dog dad. Jim is a human dad. I know that much.
That's
Unless
it.
Ryan Sage has some kids around that we don't know about. But
I hope not.
all right, let's talk in drifting, as that's the new catchphrase of the show.
Yep.
that we're going to be starting with this year. Let's talk in drifting. Let's talk about 2019. Let's wrap up 2019 and we talked to Ryan a little bit before our pre-Irwindale show when we did a jam session with a bunch of dudes. And one thing that I've always liked to do since we've done the show is kind of like, what is the theme of this last season? Like the Daigo years was like the power battle. I'd say the first 2 James Dean years were kind of like the reliability battle. I guess you could say that this year is also a bit of a reliability battle, but not so much. What was the 2019 overarching story of FD to you two?
You can go first, Jim.
I mean, I think it's always a reliability battle. I think we said this, year after year. I mean, there's really, 8 rounds. It seems long to some, especially the people working on the cars. But 8 rounds is a pretty short season. So any faltering of your vehicle along the way, forget everything else. Just the car itself can throw your team off quite a bit. So it's always about reliability. Every point, every round that you can get past has a lot to do with if your team is able to bring the vehicle to the line. So I think that continues, and we're in the James Dean era of Formula Drift, but 2020 has a lot more in store. So save that for later.
Ryan, what was the big theme this year for you?
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with that. I think also, it was definitely an engineering battle as well. I think the theme of the past 3 years has really been about one part, the reliability side of things, but also when you have arguably the best chassis, historically speaking, in drifting, and you combine that with not really arguably anymore, probably the best driver in history and a close second or third in Peter Vinsek. How do you, as a team that might be a factory-backed effort or that is, trying to compete in a different kind of chassis that has certain kinds of limitations, how do you compete against that? And I think the engineering has definitely been something that's been really fun to watch. We've seen, obviously, Papadakis Racing do some incredible stuff, things that are like near impossible, or at least from a perception standpoint, seem near impossible. But even though James got it this year, it certainly was the hardest of all 3 years from my vantage point. And it very easily could have gone the other way. And arguably, it maybe should have gone the other way, depending on how you take the last round into effect. And certainly James and those guys did not have the reliability, or James in particular didn't have the reliability that he had early on in the season. So I think you got one part engineering, and you also have a story where it was much harder for James this time around, and who knows what 2020 has in store.
Corey, Paco, what you got on that?
Well, I think we should ask, looking at it, Sam, between us 3, what do you think the theme was for this year?
Going off of what they said, it's beat James, as it's been for so long now. Beat James, and we all say that James is one of the nicest guys to ever win, and he's always humble, and he never says it's easy, and you can tell it's not easy for him a lot of the time, even though he makes it look easy on track. So beat James has obviously been the theme this year, more so than the last few years. But I think as I said, reliability, but there's something extra, and I'm trying to find exactly what that was, what occurred. That changed a bit this year. Everyone was putting on a much bigger show. The tandem battles have gotten, I think, probably my best estimation of the theme is the not so much reliability, it's a zero margin, and it's so much that I feel like from a judge's perspective, there's not as much looking for who did best. It's who didn't make a minor mistake. And so many of these battles, the tandems, especially since James and Wardhouse came into the scene, have just changed drastically. And there's now no room for error. Not that there ever was 3 years ago, but even less so now. There's milliseconds on the table, and one blink of an eye changes the run entirely, and 1 foot off for the lead driver when the chase driver is trying to mimic perfectly. It involves a hard collision that the judges and the fans can't decipher, and so on. It just goes down and down and down the list. And that is kind of the theme, I think, for me at least, is just the milliseconds and the narrow threshold. So I'd say narrow threshold. That's 2019 for me.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah, and it's like obviously we talked about this before, and we've said this probably for the past 4 years that there's no easy battle in top 32 anymore. And I think this show has been so incredible the past couple of years with only 32 car field. I think not only does it run a show very efficient, but it's like every battle's exciting, and you don't get that one lucky one through. But also too is like looking at the point standings. I was just kind of looking at that a minute ago. It's like we have so many OGs in the top 10. You have Vaughn, Gucci in 11th. You have Essa back on the board, Forsberg and Turek and Odie. It's like these are the dudes who've been around for quite some time. Some of them almost the entire length of Formula Drift. So it's like these guys are I don't want to say finding their groove because they found it, but it's like they found something that can replicate off of James, which is obviously making the car consistent and reliable. So I agree fully on that. I also think St. Louis also was a learning for a lot of people. I think that was a very, very unique screw kind of thrown in the wheel, which made the series very fun, especially coming out as there was no expectations, no data, no information. And so now we got a taste of how well every team could adapt to something new. And I think there were some people that definitely stood out there. But yeah, I would say consistency, and then obviously everybody's driving at this 11th, 10th level. You're forced to drive at 11 tenths, and you're always gambling, going out there knowing that you're going, just that 1 extra % overboard, which is literally could be a throwaway run, or if it sticks, it's going to be the gnarliest run ever. So there's no free passes. As always, I think we found our horsepower cap. I think we found grip cap. But then also, just as I'm thinking about this, how about, Breakgate? You know what I mean? The Forsberg Chelsea thing and the protests and drivers being a lot more vocal. And that's another piece. So it's like just a pool of so many different things kind of thrown into it. But it was all amazing pieces to wrap up 2019.
Yeah, it was a wonderful, wonderful season. Not
rivalry,
quiet.
dude.
Rivalries. I feel like 2018, when we were just sitting in the same position a year ago, like 2018, we're like, wow, that was a really clean, no real debates to be had. I feel like that's not the case this year. There's a lot of, I don't think it's like surface level contention, but I think there's like just it was a much more active, aggressive year for the fans, for the drivers. I don't know how it was internally at FD, but before we dive deeper, Paco, what's your overall overview of the 2019
My take for this
season?
year? Yeah, I think this year was, same. It was like the most even play field, with probably the most surprising victories, the most surprising comebacks. Probably this year was one with the tightest tandems. And also, I personally think it was the year with the least amount of bad calls, if you may. Like, I'm calling bad calls, just calling the ones where the fans think there's a bad call. Even though there's still obvious, like, I mean, the James Dean and Forrest Wang, that it was kind of like like a big one. There's very few of those, but most of the year seems like everything was very consistent, and it seems like the rules this year are the most tight, the most the better they have ever been. Like the best they have ever been. So I personally think there just needs to be a tiny little tweaking in them, but other than that, I mean, I think it's probably the smoothest season so far, in my opinion.
And as always, there's tons of tweaking that everyone can think that needs to be done. But as we've had the same conversation years now, is what the fans often want and think is an easy change is not so easy and involves an entire reorganization for one minor thing change. But yeah, I wanted to then kind of move into like, what do you guys think was the biggest victory, the biggest defeat of the season, as far as like from your end, what was successful, what was not so successful, perhaps. My Bengal cat yelling right now, not successful for the podcast, or successful if you like cat yells. But one of the things that I think was, from my perspective as a fan, first year not going to every round, so I got to watch the live stream a lot, which was strange but fun in some ways. But I was present in Irwindale, and the battle that Paco mentioned, James Dean versus Forrest Wang, almost happened the same way that it happened in 2018, which was with a Forrest win knocking James out early. But they went 2 more times, and eventually Dean got it, which I don't necessarily think, based off the judging criteria, was the wrong call. But the disconnect from the fans was massive. I've never heard louder boos. And you could argue that there's 2 fan favorites, James Dean, Forrest, always fan favorites. But even though you guys explained, I think Ryan Lontaine, the judge, explained, I think you guys explained a little bit as much as you could while keeping the show running, why the decision was made and why, according to the rules, is right. I think there was that disconnect. So what was successful and what was maybe needs more work going forward about the year?
I mean, I think from my perspective, if you go just top of mind without giving it too much thought, one benefit that sticks out, or one positive for me, is how well the series and the drivers have done in terms of promoting themselves. So one of the things, like we touched on in our SEMA press conference, was now the drivers in the series, if you take the top 10 drivers in our series by social media following, and you take that average number, and then you also take the overall number, those 2 numbers, the average and the overall, are higher than any 4-wheel motorsport compared to their other top 10 drivers. And that has only been really a recent phenomenon. And I think one of the primary reasons for that, and something that we don't really talk about, and so we don't really get a lot of credit for, is, we're one of the only leagues in the world that I know of that actually allows athletes to cover themselves in the way that we allow athletes to cover themselves. Access to the events, giving people clips right from the live stream, drone shots, whatever they want, whatever we can make available to them, we'll give them that stuff. But they also have the right to bring in, their own crews, which now have created an infrastructure within the teams themselves that are a big part of how they model out their business and how they provide success in their program. So for me, that's actually a big standout one, because it has a lot to do with the growth of the sport and the exposure that comes about from FD in general, but it ties right back into the business sort of things. And at the end of the day, we can't neglect how important that is for teams to have strong programs. On the negative side, I think it's tied to that, is that we always have a hard time keeping up with new fans that are coming into the sport. And it can always create a lot of confusion and contention about things that happen and transpire in competition. Now, there's a silver lining benefit to that, because when people talk about the sport, it can be a positive. But ultimately, what we'd like to have is an informed electorate of fans, if you will, that understand what's going on in judging, and whether or not they agree with the principles, they understand whether or not results are consistent with the way that the criteria is being laid out. And that's a real challenge, and I think it always will be. But it's certainly something that we think about a lot, and in trying to reflect on areas where, I think we probably could do a better job of looking at runs with our judging panel after each round and saying, well, where do we think the fans are disagreeing with this? Are they disagreeing with this on the basis of maybe it's an unpopular driver versus a popular driver? Or is it possible that you guys, or one of you or two of you, were inconsistent with the application of the criteria, and kind of getting to the nuts and bolts of it? And I think that that's a positive exercise that could happen for sure.
Definitely.
Yeah, I mean, if I was to brush on that from a more broad perspective, I mean, it's positively there's tons of positive things, season after season. I mean, the audience growth has been tremendous year after year, and to Ryan's point, we see that in fan growth, not just for the series, but for each driver. And that is very positive in comparison to, if we had to compare it to other motorsport series and how our fans are engaged, how we're growing. Not only are we leading the drifting space globally in terms of, all those metrics, but in some ways we're leading motorsports in those metrics as well. With that said, I mean, our primary, not just our goal, but our purpose is really we're kind of creating this environment for various people, companies to thrive, right? Before before drifting, let's just talk about like import performance was on a decline because car show market wasn't really that thriving. Import drag racing was on the decline. We created a place where a lot of these import performance and JDM companies were able to find a place to promote and market themselves, for drivers, for media, etc. That's got a place to create a career for themselves. And really in another entertaining aspect for fans of car culture to be able to go and participate in and to be able to see and enjoy. Obviously with that, everybody always kind of has the cliches like, hey, you can't always be perfect, but that's the unfortunate side of that. As we grow, as we get a larger fan base, as we get larger voices within our audience base, you can't please everybody, and it's frustrating that you can't. So we're always working really hard to do that. But those are, I think, some of the negatives when you have these certain glitches, and that's where it does force us to work harder behind the scenes to, where is the disconnect? Where are we not educating fans enough? Where are we, lacking in how we, run the run of show? Is it too long, or is there too much dead time? Are we dragging? Are there things that we can put in place to not only create, fan enjoyment, but also the participants obviously have to enjoy the environment that they're in, right? So much effort is put in each weekend that they come and compete, that they need to get some sense of satisfaction that they've accomplished something, they receive something from it. And so, whenever you can't deliver that 100%, it's always a little bit of like, we gotta work harder, we gotta try harder. And so, those are always kind of like, not necessarily a black eye, but we walk away from the season being like, yeah, man, there's a few things that we could do better, and do better. Also, I would add, not in the sense of like, oh yeah, just how do we solve it? Just throw more money at it. Let's add more of this, make that bigger, make that more.
Yeah.
I think we found that we can't always do that, because we have to be able to sustain ourselves so that the series can sustain themselves, so that teams have a place to go, versus, hey, let's just throw everything at it and then we're gone in 2 years.
Yeah.
I think
Just this week, real quick, Buck, I was going to say, just this week, like one of the staples of our import JDM universe, modified magazine is, Super Street, excuse me, is Super Street, right? You get that right? Is now done. So it's like, that was one of the last remaining bastions of print journalism in our world. So it's like, everyone, since I've been in the JDM scene for this last decade or so, I've heard everyone saying it's dying and it's over. I haven't thought that before, nor do I think it now. Nor do I think drifting is dying or drifting is over. But it's just interesting to see that, as you've mentioned, the universe of cars and petrol cars is ever shifting and ever evolving. And it's interesting to see you guys and the drivers adapt to that. And like you mentioned, Ryan, about the drivers and their internet followings, like it's blown my mind as my career personally has kind of moved into working with F1 drivers and NASCAR drivers and all this other stuff, to see how much more disengaged a lot of them are compared to the FD guys. Like there's just I don't know if there's no incentive to be on social media because they're not like chomping for every penny. They they already have their big contract and they're kind of in, or if there's just something about the sport of drifting that lends to social media better. I'm not sure what it is, but it's always really cool to see the engagement with the fans, and one of the things I've always loved about the sport.
Yeah, no, I think you hit the nail on the head, and it's probably a combination of both, and probably some other things as well. Is that a lot of our drivers have kind of grown up in this space, and so they've become accustomed to operating in the social space and interacting with fans. And it's amazing to see when people get and derive a big fan base, how they actually go and engage those people, whether it's through really high quality on-demand content, or it's just posts or Instagram stories or whatever it is. I see our drivers, and I know also from stories from sponsors that work with these drivers, that they are much more willing to do many more things than, say, other quote unquote professional athletes that are in other major motorsports or other major sports in general. And that's to their credit, right? They're something that not a lot of other athletes maybe really care to engage with, because it's not a high value proposition for them. Whereas in our sport, we grew up in this space. So it's something that I think everybody takes pretty seriously.
Yeah.
Baca, what were you saying?
Yeah, I think like as far as like the disconnection, I think at this point it's not necessarily the fan not understanding the rules, because I think Lantain has been doing a pretty good job and at explaining what's going on, and also I think that, like I said, like the rules this year seem like they're like at the most simplest, condensed, and clear. Like there's really not that much hidden stuff. You know, there's no like, oh yeah, no, but if you look at the book, it says right here that if the wind knocks the cone, that's gonna be a 0. You know, like it's pretty transparent and easy to understand. I think where the disconnection's at is on what the fans consider fun to watch and interesting and exciting, because I mean, if we go back to that same case with Forrest and James Dean, like I think we all can agree that it's more exciting to watch a car going door to door like this than like this, because like this it just
I
seems
mean,
like
no one, no one can agree on anything in drifting. First of all, but
well,
continue.
true. but I think like as far as like drifting, the more angle possible, as long as there's still, acceleration, there's no speeding scrub. That's like the maximum, like when it comes to at least a single car. So when it comes to two cars, like being able to drift very, very, very sideways and it's kind of like, even if you're not completely on your line, I still think that the sideways capabilities of being door to door next to each other at the same or very similar angle is what's the most impressive about a tandem battle.
Yeah, I think I just to key in on that real quick, because it's kind of interesting. I agree with you. I don't think people disagree with the principles. I think in your mind, what ends up happening is that there's going to be a disagreement about the threshold, about which way it goes to A or B, right?
Yeah.
And that threshold is the thing that's going to be debated. This much angle for this much period of time, okay, great. This much angle for this period of time, +2, not so great. And that area of ambiguity is what people are going to debate. If James would have done it for a little bit less time and Forrest would have been a little bit better in the lead, okay, then it would have been much more clear, James, or something along those lines, right? I think we're always arguing about emphasis and shading. We're not really arguing about the principles.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I also think each scenario is obviously different in its own. And I believe even Ryan Lantain said in that interview is proximity at that point outweighed the gap that was pulled between James and Forrest. So the proximity made up for the difference of what the gap was when the roles were reversed. So it's totally understandable. Even though it was, yes, a lack of angle, there was still enough angle to score higher in the proximity, which is more important than angle with massive gap.
Yeah.
And I think that's so each scenario is different in its own way. But
Yeah.
I understood it. I saw the run. It's just that people expected the problem is it's not really a problem, but especially to the level where the sport is going right now, is there's this very, very high expectation on every single driver out there that if they don't meet that expectation, then it's like a that person sucks now. So one run, the person can be a hero. The next run, you can run a little less, shallow of an angle and be on the door, but then you're a 0. So I think it's just the expectation that we all hold. But if you, once again, why the rule book exists, the proximity outweighed the angle and gap that Forrest brought, and that's purely what it is.
And everyone wants a good story too. So I think a bit of the disappointment from the verbal fans in the grandstands that night was everyone wants the good story of James having to fight for his championship and struggling. And James is one of the people's champions, but Forrest is the underdog. And I think FD fans most of all are almost always rooting for the underdog. Like that's one consistency I've found in a lot of them. One thing that kind of moving into the next area of discussion, banished judge Andy Yen when we talked to him finally. Also a joke. He wasn't banished, but unless you guys did banish him, he wouldn't say if you banished him. Did you kick him to the curb and tell him to go become a fireman or else?
No. I mean, plainly speaking, we actually are going to miss Andy quite a bit. I think he's been a huge contribution to the series in a lot of different ways. And just, I'm personal friends with Andy. We've ridden bikes before, and we hang out, we talk a lot, we have a lot of common interests. So there's a lot of different things that I'm going to miss about having Andy there. One of the things that I'll miss the most is his mind, because he definitely has that John Nash beautiful mind type vibe to him. He's not a great or eloquent speaker, and that's why you don't hear from him so much. But if you ever sit down with him and analyze a run, and let him talk through the run, he definitely sees things that, for me at least, that I don't see at first pass. He has a very, very high level, high quality trained mind. And even the other judges will acknowledge that too. Ryan will tell you that, Andy sees things that I don't see. And it sometimes become apparent when we look at, GoPro replays and footage and things of that nature. So he's certainly going to be very missed. No, we did not kick him to the curb.
I was actually really pleasantly surprised. Not surprised. I mean, I in just my limited interactions with him at the track over the years, I always thought, like, why is he the most disliked judge? Like, whenever we did like the marry, fuck, kill stuff, everyone always says that kill Andy Yen. And when we talked to him, though, we finally got to sit him down on the show, and he was incredibly well spoken, like you said, like very well thought out, and just a super fan, and very interesting dude to talk to. And then I kind of realized during that show, it's like the next guy in there, people are going to realize, like the fans are going to think like, oh God, Andy Yen was a really good judge. Not to say the next guy won't also be a really good judge, but just Andy, I think, was kind of underappreciated in that role, because I think that he was like easily the heel, I guess, for super fans and people in the series. But the next judge is going to have a lot of big shoes to fill, I would say. But one thing that he said that at least I took away from that show was like, they don't, they decide the calls, but you two and, whatever other secret deep state circle of drifting is around, you guys kind of just, you are the ones that are deciding the overall, what you're going to be looking for more specifically in the season. And maybe it's a combination of both you guys and the judges, but he says, I don't know, man, I'm just following Ryan and Jim's orders for the most part, or at least that's how I heard it a bunch. Do you think kind of, as Corey and Paco were talking about just the follow, you think that there is going to be a readjustment to how the judges, or how you guys want the judges to perceive on the door, on the fender, mimicking line directly behind in the same proximity to the outer zone? Is that changing, or is that the same as you want it to be, or the same as it was in 2019?
Yeah, I mean, just to be clear on that, because I'm pretty intimately involved in that, neither Jim or myself dictate judging criteria. We might say, hey, here's some things that we think that the fans are concerned about. Let's incorporate that in. But basically, the rules that go out in the judging regulations that usually get published sometime around like mid-January or February is the effort and work of all three judges and Kevin, and trying to clarify what it is that we want, and specifically taking battles that we feel have been controversial and seeing that if they were done under a different in a different way, if they were judged in a different way, would they have changed the result? Or was it just a function or a factor of maybe one judge just being out of step with the other two, or something along those lines? Or looking at battles where, you have things that seem counterintuitive, like driver A, driver B, driver B. What's going on with the guy that voted driver A? Why did the other two go driver B? You can understand driver A, driver B one more time, right? That kind of tells you that the pyramid kind of tells you pretty close. One guy went this way, one kind of guy went that way, the other guy was right in the middle. But if you have driver A, driver B, it seems like on the face of it that one guy is out of step. So you have to factor that into, and you need to call that out and say, well, what was your justification for going with driver A in this particular sense? It looks like the other two were, in agreement there. Why didn't you go with those guys, or, something along those lines? But to answer your question about the proximity, I think at the end of the day, I don't know how, I haven't spoken to them. I don't know how the three judges feel about the most apparent case of that with Forrest and with James. But I think that if there was a result that made sense, it was the first run. It was the first run result where Ryan went with Forrest. I think the other two probably were right. I think that if Forrest were to win that battle and it were to be something that we wanted to follow along in writing criteria that complied with that, it would have been battle one. So that's what we need to look at is there something in there where a threshold had been passed, either clearly or just in general terms, where that low of angle for that period of time is going to negate all the other benefits of doing a really good lead run. And that's going to be something we'll have to discuss and figure out.
We have so much to talk about with 2020, so let's start thinking about wrapping up 2019, and then between talking about 2019 and 2020, we'll hit some of the super chat questions
Well,
here.
if we're going to be on 2019, go ahead.
Real quick, I mean, just to touch back on, you guys talked about a lot of stuff there. I mean, really let's go back to Andy Yen real quick. I think that's the, unfortunate part, and I think that's kind of the sign of things is, it's really, it's a challenge, and we, whatever we've got to do to let everyone in a more transparent way, which way I feel we're already fairly transparent. I mean, that's the underratedness of Andy as a judge and his role and his expertise that he brought to the table, unfortunately was not seen. And yes, by perception, because he's not, active social media, he's not engaging with people, hanging out with a lot of, going all over the world, different things like that. Is there a, perception of how he voted, et cetera, et cetera. But I think the broader, scope of all that, or the theme of that, is that, like Ryan says, Ryan's just giving you a small glimpse of the amount of drift talk that we have on every trip that we're on, every time we're in the office. Every moment that we have is about adjusting and tweaking and analyzing what happened at the last event, what could be better, what different perspectives, what type of vehicle dynamics understanding do we have to have, what type of tools do we need to have. And a lot of times it's is it too much, is it too little? There's a lot that is put into it, and Andy actually contributed to a lot of that. Luckily, he's still going to be around. He's still willing to participate where he can, but he's dedicating a lot of his time to his, fire training and getting to the academy and, applying for a job to work for a fire department, things like that. So, but he's not completely gone, luckily. And, he's going to be around, and where we can use his expertise, we will.
Nice.
That's good.
2019's, I've got a little bit more, but Corey, Paco, what any other 2019 talks you want to make?
Yeah, St. Louis's new track. How did you guys enjoy that, and what was kind of the feedback you got from some of the drivers and teams?
It was, I'll let Ryan elaborate too, but I think changing the course. I come from, Ryan and I, we kind of play different roles, obviously, right? We have different duties and different roles. Me looking at St. Louis and the move, a lot of it is logistics. It's about, fan engagement, comfort, having larger stands, permanent bathrooms, all that kind of stuff. But luckily, with the new course configuration, it added some dynamic to it. Now, from not as being immersed in every, judged call, every judge's meeting, et cetera, you have to look at that course as a work in progress. I think year one created some challenges, but also this actually looks much better, flowed much better than we thought it would. So it met expectations. So now how do we set it up to exceed expectations? We already walked away from, if again, vehicle dynamics, how vehicles move, on the track and through the turns, are there adjustments in clipping zones and clipping points and things like that to be able to make that course flow better, to make judging not as challenging and not as difficult. That's already in play, but I think
get more lights
from a business standpoint. That I don't want to get into that. From a overall standpoint, I think the move was a good move, considering a lot of the challenges that we had we have stayed in the old configuration that we had.
Do you want to reveal any of the course changes potentially for 2020, or is that still all up in the air? It's feels like 10 years from now, but it'll creep up on us fast.
Nothing. All the tracks that we're going back to seem, pretty much the same. I mean, obviously the judges will start discussing that come January.
Yeah.
And work again, work with Kevin on if there's any adjustments for the returning tracks. St. Louis definitely is going to have a few tweaks, and with Sonoma and Englishtown is work in progress.
We're gonna keep that for the rest of the show because I definitely want to go deep into all that stuff. And also to people listening now, we're not going to touch on probably 90% of what you guys want to ask of these guys and all of the FD stuff, nor are all those answers revealed yet because it's still 4.5 months away from the beginning of the season. But this is just kind of an overview. We want to, like I said at the beginning of the show, kind of deconstruct and put an end to 2019 a little bit and kind of get an overview for 2020. But we're definitely going to talk to Kevin Wells about some of the rules. I want to talk to some judging panel, maybe the new judge, whenever that new judge is revealed, guys. And when are you going to do that, by the way? When will we know the judge?
We were just talking about that the other day. We're probably
right now.
Yeah, right
Fine,
now.
let's do it right now, guys. I don't mind.
All right.
We're
Corey
live.
Hosford.
Oh,
Corey!
Hey.
God,
This is going to be a disaster.
I would honestly
our
love.
driver steward is Paco. He's moving into
Yeah.
that
Oh,
slot.
good.
Oh man, this is gonna be chaotic.
Can I be HR?
Yeah, you can do that
You
for
can
sure.
be HR.
Fuck
We're
yeah.
going to put whoever has the most negative comments about judging as a judge and let them try it out.
That's a good idea. All right, looks like we've got Dick Balls 69420 is the new judge today because he said that he could do a much better job than Andy. Here you go.
Yeah. I was gonna ask you actually before we wrap it
Real
up.
quick. I was gonna say let me finish that statement real quick. I said we're gonna talk to the judges. We're gonna talk about 2020 for the rest of the show. Sorry, Corey, you say what you were gonna say because I lost my train.
No, I was gonna say just standout moments of 2019. I'd say Pro 2 had its best year yet.
Definitely.
Yeah.
I think Pro 2 had his biggest standout year yet. I think all the drivers did really well, and especially in St. Louis, I think Pro 2 almost put on as good or better show than Pro 1, considering Gushi's oil spill, which probably affected majority of Pro 1 layout for the remainder of the day, which was just like one of those things you kind of have to beat your head on. But overall, I think Pro 2 was legit amazing. The competition was great, and it's just hoping that some of those dudes end up moving up to Pro 1. But yeah, so I think Pro 2 is now seeing the more brighter days, especially with now developing these drivers to get ready. I think the cars are more prepared in Pro 2 now. I think a lot of the drivers have learned over the past handful of years that, okay, now they need to bring a real race car, a real drift car to Pro 2, considering, yes, we saw that same 255 tire rule, and then you have the weight requirement.
And a program that mimics a Pro 1 program as much as possible,
Yes,
too. You used to be able to show up with a
absolutely.
jack and some jack stands and your best friend, and that was like the first year of Pro 2. A lot of teams are doing that, but now they're actually properly mimicking Pro 1 teams as much as they can, and it's the series that
And the other thing too is the big argument that you see on the internet is like, oh my God, Pro 2, these are just Pro 1 cars and how's it cheaper? You're doing half the rounds. It's like, and I tell a lot of people this, especially running on a lot of the grassroots stuff. At the end of the day, there's these drivers that go to grassroots events or pro-am events with a very underdeveloped car, and let's say luckily enough they get their license. The gap that has to be bridged now from that very basic pro-am car to Pro 2 is such a large jump, and the people complain of how expensive it is. Well, if you end up developing your car correctly the first time around, there's not this huge development gap in the car. It's literally make a few little fab changes or whatever it is, and then the car's Pro 2 ready. I think these guys are now grasping that the car has to be at that level, and the budget is saved by literally cutting the rounds in half. So even if people say, oh, it's still a Pro 1 car, it is, and it should be. But where the budget saving is travel, which is probably the most expensive cost to operating and running a team. It's not working on the race car. It's literally taking your crew, getting them on the road. So you save literally the majority of the money in that. So yes, develop your Pro 2 car to essentially be a Pro 1 car.
detuned a little. Yeah.
But even the theme of reliability is that much more magnified in Pro 2. You could build whatever car you want. You can spend however much and mimic a pro car if you wanted to. But if you don't have the crew to support that, I mean, 19 is as much about all these things that we talked about, which really comes down to really your team that supports it, right? It's a team sport now, really. What Papadakis can do in 45 minutes, really, how many teams, even in pro, is able to do that? So now take that to Pro 2. You go build yourself a car that's overly complicated, more than your team can handle.
Yes.
Wait until something happens. You can't even get that thing to the line. So there's so much to be learned, and that's why there is this. You need to run Pro 2 before you go Pro, because you're not just, it's not just about, hey, I could drive. Yeah, okay, you could drive, but can you manage the program to be able to showcase your driving?
I mean,
That's what we're trying to bridge.
I don't know if you've heard, but there are 13-year-old kids wearing Crocs in Japan that will outdrift any Formula Drift driver. I mean,
We've all known that for a long time.
yeah, that's like the typical, like, oh yeah, drifters suck, like everybody's better. But at the end of the day, it's not just the driving; it's it's a whole professional aspect of professional drifting. You want to be a professional driver, you have to have a whole team. You have to have a car that's reliable. I mean, if you want to bring a KA with a turbo, sure, but let's just make sure that it's gonna run perfectly fine all the way to the top. But I think like one of the things that I like about Formula Drift being unrestricted is precisely that the drivers just find their own limit. If you want to bring 2,000 horsepower, well, good luck not running out of tires on the first run, right?
Or just putting the power to the ground in a usable fashion.
Yeah.
All right. You guys want to put a nice, pretty bow on 2019 for now? I'm sure we didn't answer 99% of what everyone wanted to hear, but that is show business. And as we've always said, we're at the end of the show. We're going to give you Ryan and Jim's phone numbers, addresses, social securities, all that, so you guys can talk to them. But the joke aside that I've made far too many times now, they will and happily do engage with fans all the time. So if you want to know why for something, respectfully ask it, and it'll probably be answered. One of the beautiful parts about our sport. You guys want to talk about some 2020 stuff after we do some super chats? You ready?
Take it where you want to go.
Let's do it, man.
Do this.
It's natural progression of time, Ryan. We have to leave it behind. Stay Sideways is asking about Englishtown. We're going to talk about Englishtown, Stay Sideways. So then he also asked about, we've seen NASCAR, F1. Is there going to be a Formula Drift video game? Question mark.
Is that you want us to answer the question?
Yeah.
Yeah, if you want to. You don't have to. You can tell them to eat dirt.
There could be. I mean, we've talked about it over the years. I think we may have the right partner now to be able to do that. But I think we've enjoyed being a part of various games. Cars like Corey's or in Forza. There's a million cars that are in Torque Drift, which is also a series partner, and they provide mobile gaming experience that's pretty fun. And more, and they're seeing success. More and more people are downloading cars and playing and driving on tracks that they're designing that mimic Formula D courses. So we're going to be doing more with them. Now, will that spin off into a FD only game? Maybe, but I think there are a lot of things being juggled, and I don't know if that's necessarily priority number one.
Right. The answer is maybe, like most things. And then
anything's possible, right?
Yeah, but also, it's cool when without you guys having to spend copious amounts of time or money, games like Forza and others and fan games and Torque Drift, like you said, are putting FD drivers and cars and tracks into their games. So it's kind of a fun integration. But I would very much like to see a dedicated FD game. But to be on par with the quality experience of a Forza or any of the other ones, it's like you got to spend a lot of time and a lot of money making those games. And there's already so many good ones. Why make a new one? Why not branch off and make a DLC like has already happened with Forza? And get Corey's car in there, and then you can drive Corey's car off a cliff at 100 miles an hour.
No, I need to go back before that happens again.
We need to. We never did it.
I need to have a Formula Drift reunion tour.
I wanted to do a Crash Corey's car the hardest competition to see just like who could crash your car the worst, and then we would give them a prize.
Judge it.
Yeah, judge it. I mean, if you guys want to organically make that happen, we'll make prizes happen, but we'll see. Foxy Pappy says, as a good segue into everything we're moving forward to now, he says, What is Formula D? What is Formula D? That's it. That's the question. No. He says, what is Formula D / you guys doing to advance the sport in years to come? Feels like in recent years, the sport is maybe plateauing. Thanks for the opinion, Faxi. I guess the sport's plateauing according to Faxi. But what are you guys doing to advance the sport right now for 2020 and beyond?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I don't, not to. What was his name?
Foxy Pappy.
Poppy.
Foxy Poppy. I don't want to diminish, his analysis of, what justifies the plateauing part, but, everything that we see is going in an upward trajectory. Certain things more than others, whether it's, content, digital, live, sponsorships to teams, sponsorships to the series, all those things have had very, very positive increases over the past few years. And I think in a certain way, you can make the argument that the sport in general is kind of reaching critical mass. We know we've got people that we work with in Europe that are having a lot of great success in developing drifting. We have a kind of a domination of the North American market, and we're seeing a lot of people come into the sport, a lot of brands come into the sport, a lot of people seeing it as a very positive way to build their marketing outreach, whether it's a tire manufacturer or a parts company or non-endemic, whatever. So we're not really seeing that plateau. I think what he may be referring to is we're kind of doing the same thing, right? We're doing the same 8 events. We're doing the same television broadcast. We're doing the same live stream broadcast. But I would say that that's what every other sport does, right? There's the same amount of football games every single year. There's the same amount of stadiums currently right now. So what we have to do, I think, in thinking about in broad terms is how do we take the things that we're good at and build upon them? How do we take the things that we know that have a ceiling for growth and build upon them? And those things internally for us are actually pretty clear. We know that there needs to be a greater input into the way that we reach out to brands and try to do sales. We know that there's a need for us to continue to penetrate the social market, and how do we get drivers to do that in a better way? One of the most important things is actually getting drivers that are not Von Gittin Jr., that are not James Dean, that are not Peter Vinsek, that are not Odi Bakchis, and a lot of these guys that understand how to run a program in a proper kind of way, how to talk the talk, walk the walk, sell your sport, sell yourself as a driver, and then you will be contributing to helping grow along with everybody else. The series can do a lot, but there's only so much we can do. And the participants in the series actually need to pull some water as well. And, that is something that we need to continue to work on because we have a lot of young guys coming into the sport. We touched on Pro 2 a little bit. One of the things that we try to emphasize with Pro 2 is maybe don't make the jump to Pro right away. If you're a top 5 guy and you did that in year 1, maybe do another year in Pro 2. Pro 2 is actually pretty dope. Get a lot of viewership. We present basically the same format for you. You have a lot of people that are following you. Make a name for yourself. Build your program. Build your relationship with your brands. And then when you're ready, jump to Pro 1. And if you do that, it's probably going to create some sustainability. So, there's a lot of inputs coming into the sport. And our job is to basically look at all those things and figure out what we can do to contribute to the growth pattern that we're already currently seeing so that we don't plateau.
We've always told people to be dominant in Pro 2 before you can go to Pro 1. No one's ever listened to us. Also, we don't know what we're talking about. But from my perspective, at least, it's like I would personally want to beat the shit out of everyone in Pro 2 for 3 years running and then go to Pro 1 and be very well acclimated. But I think everyone's goal is always to be in Pro 1, which I don't blame them for, but it's an easy thing to say from the outside looking in, but that's obviously a bigger discussion to be had. But as Pro 2 bolsters and grows more competitive, it'll become very clear that you need to stay in Pro 2 before you go to Pro 1.
It's and if you guys are familiar with Supercross, it has the 250 class, as I believe, has a very similar feel to what Pro 2 is. And there's Pro 2 or even 250 class superheroes, dude, that will run that series for the existence of their career, and they would be the equivalent to like a Jerry McGrath in the Pro 1 as the Pro 2 guy. I am a firm believer, and I tell a lot of people this, it's like, it's okay to be a lifer in Pro 2, dude. Like, for whatever reason, I think people have this big misconception that just because they're in Pro 2, it is like, oh, I haven't made it to the top. It's like, no, you're there you're there. You may not be driving, on Saturday for sure, but you're there. And for me, if I were to do it again, and I would love to do it again, is I'd stay in Pro 2 for 4 or 5 years, 3 years.
Do it, coward.
I'm almost ready to, but it's just like I think there's so much sustainability. And the other thing too is so much better to be at the top of Pro 2 than the bottom of Pro 1. And as soon as you hit the bottom of Pro 1, good luck trying to dig yourself back to Pro 2 or even up the ranks of Pro 1 because you just now went down a few steps, unfortunately.
Well, when you were Pro 1, you were the power bottom.
I was absolutely. The thing is I was a back marker, so people use me as a reference. I was a reference point. No, but you know what? For me, it's like one of those things. I went right from Pro-Am right to Pro 1, which was my mistake. But I was a firm believer in, drive where you feel is going to excel you the most. Now getting out of that and learning and still continue driving with these guys and getting input away, if I would have had that then, I would have been in a much different situation. Learning how to develop, learning how to build a car, learning this, Dude, I remember my first FD and I didn't know it was even judged speed-wise. And I was, you know what I mean? It's like, how do you not know that entering a professional series? But now there's so many tools out there that there's no excuses anymore. You just got to go.
When I hear people say the plateau argument too, it's like I think of where it was when I entered the sport, 7-ish short years ago, and Corey was there, and it's like think about where they've grown in those 7 years, and it's like the last 3 years have felt somewhat similar with James winning and all the drivers struggling to pick up and change and adapt and all that. But I don't think it's gotten worse in any way, and I think that minor corrections,
you can't
all
say
things too.
But you can't say the sport's plateauing. Look at Jimmy Johnson; he has like 6 championships in the past. 10 years. It doesn't mean it's plateauing. You have a solid team, which I don't think
that's where the tricky part is right?
Yeah.
Like what's a definition and what are people, or in this particular, what's the gauge of plateauing? Is it because viewership has reached a certain point?
You're not having to change a bunch of shit, I think.
And that's the double-edged sword of kind of growing a sport, right? You grow to a point where it's like, now it's kind of starting to be a little bit like clockwork, hopefully, right after 16 seasons, there's some key pillars of what we do really well, like Ryan said, and we're building on that. And we're trying to make those things better and better every time. Now, can we introduce new things every year? That's always the struggle too. We'd love to add all kinds of pizzazz every year, but all that really is so non-organic. Like there's the growth comes in, again, like I think the audience and the people that are engaged, whether you agree or disagree with calls, whatever, but there's more and more density of fans being involved, and that's really the growth. That's really what we're monitoring.
The other thing too to think about is obviously you guys have been developing the sport for 16 years now? You guys are going at it? 16 years now?
Yeah.
And it's like
sport's old enough to drive, baby.
Yeah, we finally quinceañera.
Yeah, quinceañera. I forgot about that. That was the season. Paco, why didn't you say that for the season's theme?
I'm the worst Mexican ever. Forgot.
Oh, that's right.
I think the point is though that people still need to understand is like, we talk about transparency and understanding the sport too. It's like for the past 16 years, there's been always this constant growth of development, that there hasn't been a sustainability of not testing and tuning. But I still believe we're in this testing and tuning phase of continually developing the sport. So when people or even fans come in and say, oh, I'm not understanding this, it's not that they're understanding this, it's that there's still continuous development. Who knows, maybe in the next 5 years, you may not have to touch the rule book, you may not have to change the rules, you may not have to do anything. And so when people engage at that point, for the next 15, 20 years that it's going to be the same rule. So if you look at NASCAR entered the chase.
Well,
and
they're changing. They're changing shit
then,
because their shit was just getting stale because they needed to change something because the rules were all working fine. The machine was moving, but they had to add spice. Like, I'd love for FD to get to the point where it has to add spice.
We're still adding spice just to keep it, try to find that.
Well, it's not adding spice. It's finding the median level of how it should be right now. But I hope it gets boring enough to add spice someday.
But this is my point with that is like, NASCAR implemented the chase, but people had for the past 50 years the idea of how NASCAR should be operated, and it's from green flag to checker flag. There was a consistent point of consistency, and we've always had ups and downs with developing and changing from knocking over cones to 1 tire's off to 2 tires off to what this means and what this means, that we haven't had just a 4 years of the same shit. We've never had more than probably 1 year of the same stuff. So I think once we get to a point of just this sustainability, it's going to be way easier for fans to understand and gauge, because now there's, with fine tweaks, obviously. But
One of the things I like to say a lot, Jim and I talk about this quite a bit when we talk about what makes drifting kind of unique and interesting, is that if you take Formula One aside, and Formula One is going through a renaissance of its own with new ownership, and they're doing a lot of new things, and they're opening up a lot of closed doors that weren't there before to media access and things like that. We all see it. We see the athletes doing a lot more. We see social media becoming a bigger factor. They've grown leaps and bounds in that respect. But if we just put them to a side for a second as an anomaly, one of the main criticisms of traditional motorsports as they stand today, whether it's drag racing or NASCAR or IndyCar or any of the things that you see, is that the format is basically the same, and it has not moved in the direction consistent with culture, right?
Mhm. Right.
Culture as it is right now, right, is pretty much a gimme right now. I need to be pleased. Or boom, biggest drop, everything, whether from music, to social media, everything is right now. Right now. You're looking for that next high, right? Looking for that next high. And it's no surprise to me that drifting has grown up in that culture, right? Because it's essentially, and this, I'm not using this as a pejorative, I'm just using this to be descriptive, is that drifting is basically the ADD sport. It's a payoff every 30 seconds, right?
Yep.
Every 30 seconds you get something new, and it's something crazy and most likely very, very exciting. It's smoky, it's fast, it's the last lap of every NASCAR race, right? That's consistent with culture. So the idea that you're going to have a sport that is going to grow in contrast to culture seems counterintuitive. And that's the big challenge for a lot of the other mainstream motorsports, is how do they get the next generation of fans to like what they're doing? How do they get somebody to sit down and watch a 4-hour race? How do they get somebody to sit down or even go to an event weekend to watch cars go in a straight line at however many miles per hour, whatever it is? I'm not saying I dislike those sports. I think those sports are great. We learn a lot from those sports, but I'm just saying that is the question that they are trying to figure out themselves, is how do we attenuate what we're doing into this modern culture that we live in now, which basically payoffs is a constant thing.
Marco, did you have something to add on
Oh
that
yeah, I was gonna
before
say,
we,
like,
push forward?
yeah, and like I think the last signal that is the sport's not plateauing is, and it's also probably a segue to move to the next part, is all the amounts of new drivers coming to the season. Like, in my eyes, if like the sport was in decline, you wouldn't see so many new drivers bringing, especially new drivers from all over the world, which those are the ones that spend more money. So who in his right mind?
I'll tell you the perception decline. The perception decline comes from in 2011 when you had 82 cars show up to Long Beach, and then 4 years later you have 31 cars in Pro 1, but then you have 36 cars in Pro 2, and people think, oh my God, they can't get a full field because it's Byron. Literally, as a whole, between Pro 2 and Pro 1, you literally have the same 60 to 70 cars there. You just ended up putting in a way to develop a better show and give people more of an opportunity to grow their programs and develop themselves, rather than the fizzle out effect. Because I'll tell you this, and you guys obviously seen every single driver that walked in the door and left. And even Andy, like I remember when I obviously came into the sport, Andy is one of the most, depending on what side of the fence you're on, Andy's an amazing guy. But Andy like told me, he's like, first thing he said, he's like, how long are you going to stick around for? You know what I mean?
Forever,
Like,
asshole. Get ready.
That wasn't a good impersonation. Try again.
Yeah. Oh God, there was a bunch of F-bombs and a bunch of other things in there. But you know what it means? That's what it was, is because what people would do is go on the Pro 1 below their wad and be like, oh, I ran out of money. Oops, I financed my house. Oh, I did this and I did that. And it was like they just didn't go through the proper channels to do that. And I think that's what Pro 2 is. But it's once again, I believe it's a perception. It's just a purely perception that you literally took the 60 to 80 cars that used to show up and split it up in two groups, and now you have 2 Byrons per event. So people think the sport's plateauing, versus that it's still the same amount of cars, just literally in 2 different sections between Pro 1 and Pro 2.
And I think what to help Foxy Pappy understand what or get the answer he's looking for with the potential, like, what do you want to have it not be plateauing? they want to hear about the fireworks and what's the new thing, and they see maybe things they like in other series, and they say, why isn't FD doing that? But we have a brand new track that when I first heard about it, I like texted the boys and I texted everyone I knew, and I made a Facebook post saying how wildly excited I was for this new track. And there's not just one new track this year. We have 2 new tracks, and there's Sonoma and there's E-Town. I feel like we wouldn't be doing Sonoma proper justice to talk about it after E-Town, but I really want to talk about E-Town, so let's talk about E-Town. E-Town sounds awesome. I have not been this excited for anything in the sport, and I'm always excited about stuff in FD. We do a podcast 50 weeks out of the year talking about it, so there's tons of excitement to be had. But it means something when Forsberg showed me some behind the scenes stuff of it at SEMA, and I was like, this is the next evolution in FD. Like, this is the next generation of cool shit to come. Since we started this podcast, we always said, like, wouldn't it be cool if we did a stadium drifting? I think the last time that we talked to you guys on this very show, we said, when are we going to do stadium drifting? And now I wouldn't necessarily call this stadium drifting, but it's kind of stadium drifting. But
Open
I'm going to stop
stadium.
talking. You tell us. Tell us about E-Town. What can we know now? What is in works? Give us the whole spiel.
Well, here's the thing, right? Like, we battle a lot of, when we talk about perception. Yeah, there's a lot of shiny, glitzy things that distract a lot of people. More lights, more fireworks, more whatever, confetti, right? Like that doesn't. That's great. I'm not saying it's not great, but that doesn't really do anything per se, at least in our perspective. We want to talk about plateauing. I mean, how historic. Like, how significant is this E-Town move? Like, everybody has to kind of take a step back and really look at that. Mm-hmm. This is a drag strip that has run top NHRA events for decades. Mm-hmm. Import drag racing on the East Coast cut its teeth at Englishtown Raceway.
Drifting in America was born there in some regards.
Drifting in America on the East Coast was born there in its parking lot, in its paddock. So the significance of this place that shut down drag racing operations, and for the owner to be creative enough and proactive enough to want to work with us to bring us there or back there. We were there one time to bring us back there. And when we first talked about it, it's like, well, wait, we're not. Are we talking about the road course? No, we're not even talking about the road course. We are going to pave through the drag strip, wall to wall, stand to stand. We're going to make something work. We're going to invest in putting that pavement down. We're going to send your cars through that drag strip tunnel, like the heydays of drag racing at E-Town, and we're going to have drift cars blast through grandstands on both sides, hopefully filled to the brim. I mean, it's significant, not even just that, oh, we found a venue that was willing to partner with us to pave, the course, blah, blah, blah. But that such a significant, quote unquote, traditional motorsports venue is literally converting. After this, they can't run drag racing how they used to there anymore. It's done. Drag racing in its top form at Englishtown is done. And in its place is a purpose-built drift course. That's how significant this move is. And sure, and then boring me on the logistics side, we
want to hear it all.
We quadrupled our paddock. We tripled our grandstand seating. We have access to trackside suites. We could go later in the night because there's more lighting. There's more parking. What more is there for us to serve the Northeast more than to move to a venue like this?
And the track, from what I understand, has been designed by the E-Town drifters, designed by pro drifters. E-Town, the facility itself, has been working with you guys and with pro drivers for a while to make this kind of just the most well thought out, purpose-built drift course in America to this point. I think it's probably safe to say. It's just all very exciting to see this thing that I personally have wanted to see in FD since I joined the league of you guys, and I think a lot of our fans are going to be really blown away when they see how much thought and effort has gone into this, and when all of it is revealed. I mean, I probably don't know much more than the fans at this point, but I just got very excited seeing everything that is falling into place to make this happen. And Wall was one of my favorite tracks. I want to add that too.
Right.
It's like Wall was very special to me from a visual perspective of capturing it on video. There's something magical. The battles there were always insane. I think Wall was a very cool track, but I think for FD going forward, I think that the E-Town, as from what I understand it to be, is kind of the future of where the sport's headed, and I'm very excited to see that.
That's a really difficult. Sorry, go Ryan.
Well, I was just going to say it's worth noting, and credit where credit's due. I mean, this has really been Jim's baby, so he deserves all the accolades for getting this deal done. It was definitely not an easy deal to get done, and from my perspective, in running a different department, it would have been a hell of a lot easier for us just to stay at Wall. So when we're talking about progressing the sport, moving forward, doing a lot of things, the home run for us is turn on the lights at Wall. It's a sold out show. We have a great show. Everybody has a good time. It's easy to do. Englishtown presents a much bigger endeavor with a much bigger reward for everybody in terms of growing the sport, but it absolutely is going to be much, much more difficult. So if it fails, it's Jim's fault too, by the way.
There you go. I mean, you can spread that between everyone. Like I said, so many people collaborated to make this awesome, from the local E-Town drifters who are all badasses to pro drivers to all Jim. But when it fails, everyone can be blamed. I can be blamed for drumming it up and hyping everyone up about it. Corey's at fault somewhere. Paco's always at fault in my eyes. So it's like we can spread it thin.
Yeah, we've had a beautiful tenure at Wall. I think we've all grown from to be fair to them, a hate of that track from a competition perspective to kind of enjoying it over the years. And we've had a lot of really incredible memories there, from everything from, things that we don't need to get into in the program, but a lot of historical moments have happened there. And to go to this new venue, for me is really interesting, mostly because of what Jim touched on, is that it's kind of for me, it's the tide turning in what's going on in culture and in motorsports, is that you have this track that's shutting down that used to be a drag racing facility, but they're staying alive and keeping it going because of drifting. And that, I think, is a really important undertone to this whole thing, that a drifting event of our size could support a move like that. And I think that says a lot about where the sport is right now.
And also, going back to Wall, though, it's like, every time you showed up to Wall, you can expect the stands to be filled. You can expect standing room only. And it's like, for the past 5 years, we've been capping the growth or audience to step into Wall. It's like, you go there, you see the same faces every single time. So it's like,
there's no room to
a
grow
whole
either.
new audience. Hopefully, it opens up.
Pork roll.
Yeah, you can expect a few more rolling in. And so it's.
I mean, it was definitely a difficult decision to do that. I think as we highlighted, at the press conference, this hopefully is, and we believe it is, we're moving into a different era of the series, at least from a series operating and business standpoint. Pretty much all of the track deals that we have now are multi-year. I mean, we didn't have multi-year track deals until probably season 4, that a track was willing to sign a deal with us for more than a season. We were last on the totem pole in terms of date selection and things like that, except for maybe 1 or 2 tracks. So to be able to get to a point where venues are willing to work with us, they want us there, multiple years. I mean, like I said, every track that we're going to, probably with the exception of Long Beach, just because it's a city deal, is a multi-year agreement. And so with this difficulty, is that we had a lot of memories at Wall, and Wall it's so unique, that facility. But really, to grow, you have to make more space for more things to happen there, on and off track. And so, and also credits due to Mike Knapp at Raceway Park. If it wasn't his enthusiasm for drifting, and having watched us 30 minutes away at Wall Speedway all these years, and having hosted grassroots events since day one, and even driving himself, and his son drives, having so much passion for that, and his willingness to kind of take a risk with us as well, none of this would have happened. So to see partners like that makes us really excited to kind of work with them and go there.
And saying all this, I'm chuckling because I'm like, We were this close to replacing Irwindale with Las Vegas Bull Ring.
Yeah.
We were so close, guys. We almost had it.
I mean, we're in the hands. I mean, really, we're in the hands of like track companies that lease the track and property owners. I don't know why people kind of hate on us so much. Like we're like one event, of like 365 days at these venues, and it's like we're in their hands, really.
And
Man, how different would that have been, man?
Can you kind of describe the track to people that are hearing this, not for the first time, but that only heard that we're at E-Town? Like, what are they going to experience? Jim, you kind of started by saying they're blasting into this drag strip through a tunnel, but like, how is this different than any track that's existed in FD previously?
Yeah, you guys described it. It is like an arena. That is because they have, think of a drag strip, right? There's your start line, there's 2 lanes that go down, and there's grandstands on both sides.
Both sides.
Now, luckily, E-Town has actually a pretty wide runoff on left and right of the drag strip. So the width and the turn radius is almost as, if not a little bit bigger than the turn radius at Wall Speedway. So it's not as small as some people perceive it to be because it's a drag strip. Oh my gosh, everything's like narrow together. How are you going to turn a car through there? And we've laid out enough pavement to have some flexibility in case we want to change configurations. So again, ideally, we want to have cars line up prior to or in or a little bit outside of the tunnel. We send cars down, and we're working on what is the best flow of turns to go through, wall to wall, grandstand to grandstand, and to be able to provide a dynamic set of turns to be able to be judged, and then really that's the course, and you're kind of in a bowl in a way where you're just surrounded by 3 sides.
And it's built for the fans to have a great show. It's built for the drivers to put on a good show, I believe. And proximity and technical driving is going to be really highlighted here. It's not the drag strip. It is physically the drag strip, of course, but it's not like the drag race. I think that people have often complained about FD is to Japanese technical second gear drifting courses, but it's some hybrid, I think, from what I understand. Again, I only have hearsay, but it seems like it is it's going to favor technical tight tandems, and it's going to favor the audience seeing a great show.
It will be. I mean, it's not going to be Road Atlanta. There's not going to be 100-mile-plus-per-hour entries. It's not going to be that. It provides a different dynamic. As you said, it's going to be more technical. It's going to be a lot tighter, but it's going to be
close in your face, man. It's just going to be up in your face. I think that's one of the best things about New Jersey or Wall is that you're so close. Everything about being that close just changes the whole experience. As long as you guys can maintain, I think that is what makes that event so special.
Yeah,
I know that there's spy shots floating around on the web. I don't own any on my phone. I don't know if you guys own it in your phone. If someone posts it to a board or something and links it, whatever, I won't get mad. But yeah, you can see shots of stuff. I'm sure the FT boys will release the course layout when they're ready. But if you are super curious, go ask a friend that's in the drift world, or just drive down to E-Town and break in, or just go to one of their many drift events. But there's going to be so much more of that to come. Paco, are you about to?
Oh yeah. Well, I was gonna say, like with the coming of a new track, we also say goodbye. Oh wait. Oh Ryan. Oh.
Whoa, is that Ryan?
Oh,
Ryan. Jim.
Ryan took it out.
Jim held up the phone.
Sorry, Jim. There you go. Oh, it's the grandstands.
Wow.
Oof.
All right, so if you're audio only, what we saw here is just a picture of Jim's ass. He just he just took a photo of his butt, and he showed it to us. But it looks like a butt. Thank you. Paco, what was that?
Sorry. So I was saying with the new track coming in, now we also have a track leaving the roster because we
the rooster
the roster of tracks this year, and we said goodbye to Texas, which is kind of like the belly button of the tracks. It's like the middle of
the belly button of the country, the belly button of the tracks.
Button.
Yeah.
Hot and sweaty. That's where you go, where no one's allowed to touch you because you punch them because you got a weird belly button sensitivity.
Yeah.
I don't have that, but
Yeah, and a lot of people seem quite upset about not having a round in Texas anymore. So
I'm not,
what happened right
for
there?
the record.
Yeah, huh? Sam?
Yeah, Texas is that's a little bit trickier of a situation. I mean, we had a great boost in fans this year. I think we finally figured out the best layout for competition, but operating that event was quite challenging. I think there's a lot of factors on our end that make it challenging, and made the decision to start searching for alternatives, and we ended up at Sonoma. I mean, one of the things we have to think about is, how do we get enough lighting? How do we create more? Where does more grandstands go? What are the costs of those grandstands as we keep increasing? We add more, then more fans come, and then we add more, and then more fans, and trying to service them. The time of the year that we were allotted to be there is always September, and for some reason, well, not for some reason, it's always hot, except for maybe one year. There. So there's some boring business cost type of things that we had to evaluate in terms of if and how do we stay at that venue. The market is great, and I'm disappointed that we can't continue there because, like we said, we've grown the market for a number of years, and it's grown every year. I know people are pissed off, and that's unfortunate. And we are working on. We would love to go back if we can find a cost and logistics hurdles to be overcome. If we can overcome them, I think we can find a way back. But on to more positive is, again, you go to Sonoma. It's a venue that we've been at since the time that we left. I was talking to Don Brockway, and to think how long we've been gone. He started drifting after we left, so that's how long we haven't been in Northern California. And we talked to them, and they wanted us back. We made it work. It's a market that has now been thriving grassroots wise. I think the drifting market in that region is way bigger, way healthier than it was the year we left. That helps us a lot. The paddock space that's allotted to us is huge. The seating in the section that we want to be in is double the number of stands that we had in Texas. So there's a lot of dynamics that are involved in kind of our decision making to have to make the hard choice to say, yeah, you know what, I think it's time to bring Formula Drift to a not a fresh and new venue, but one that is healthy and is thriving for what we have, and to bring this product back there and
Closer to me.
And we can't be, we're not going to be a 20 round season. We're just not going to be. We're not going to be in every major market. So at some point, sometimes we have to shift things around. You guys want to keep it spicy? Okay, we're going to keep it spicy. We're going to move it to different markets that want us there, and then maybe we'll shift it in a season or two, and that's how what we got to do.
Yeah, and I think just to add to that, largely Texas is very symptomatic of something that is fundamental to drifting events in the United States, and that's that there's really no quote unquote drifting tracks. Everything we do has to be done in a venue that checks off the markers for all the things that we need, from grandstands that can see every corner of the competition, to the appropriate paddock, to the right number of grandstands, et cetera, et cetera. And it's kind of hilarious that in the case of Texas, and I agree with Jim, we would love to go back, but we're talking about one of the largest motorsports facilities in the United States, and there's not enough space for us. Yeah. We had, the largest percentage of year-over-year growth from audience came from Texas this year. And we cannot bring any more grandstands into that area, or at least in our current configuration, we can't figure out how to do it, and we don't have support from logistically to be able to kind of figure that out. So while we'd love to go back, it's hard to pass up an offer and an opportunity like Sonoma, where there is this huge resurgence of drifting culture and community going on, and at a track that we've been in the past and that we know and that we love, and it's going to be a brand new configuration, so that's also pretty cool as well.
Can you tell us a bit about the track? It was before my time seeing there, awesome, of course, but it was a much different type of drifting than we've seen today. How is it different than how you were there before? And kind of just describe what the experience will be for people who go out there, drivers and fans. Not all.
Oh, describe the track.
Yeah, describe the track from the perspective of a fan and as a driver. Like, what can people expect to see track-wise, experience-wise?
Okay, yeah. So last time we were in a very contained part of the venue with grandstands that were built into the side of kind of that miniature little mountain that's over there, and it was a pretty small run up, but downhill, pretty self-contained. This time around, we're actually going to a much more stretched out part of the track. It's a completely different location, many more grandstands, pretty good viewing. The track from a competition standpoint, I think you can find plenty of videos online, but for pro cars, I think it's going to be pretty sick. We spent some time up there probably a month and a half ago or so, looking at the track, and some of the local guys coming out there, and Farouk was out there, and he's been great in helping us spearhead this whole thing. So I think competitively it's going to be really awesome. I'm not sure how many pro cars have actually drifted that part of the track to give you an idea of what it will look like, but it's very deceptive if you look at it from the videos. When you're actually there, there's huge amounts of elevation changes on this part of the track, which I think are going to be really fascinating if they're captured properly. To give people perspective, but for fans on the ground, I think it'll be pretty awesome. The one big challenge of it is that it's such a huge venue and it's such a huge paddock that we need to really think about how we're going to transport people from the main paddock up into the grandstands. And it's probably going to be some trams that we're going to have to work on. So this is going to be a whole really cool, interesting event. If you're a fan, you're going to get to experience not only like a really cool, awesome paddock in a very high level, really awesome track in the way that Sonoma has developed it, but also the process of going from there up to the main track where the competition is going to be happening is going to be really fun and interesting.
I think you can relate it. You can relate it best. Sorry, you can relate it best to Road Atlanta, right? You have natural terrain facility, you have natural road course, which it's great to bring another road course like that back into the season, the championship. But yes, the paddock will be big and full, but the walk will be a little bit long. So we're gonna aid in that. But anybody that's been up there, it's a beautiful place. Like Ryan said, it's deceptive. There are it's not just a pure uphill, but there's a lot of elevation changes and love to see the first pro car in that section. I mean, I'm sure the NorCal guys can tell you more about it, but we're really excited to go back.
Oh, it's gonna be amazing.
Sam, did you know there's wine
tasting? That's what I was saying, man. So you're gonna have some after hours activities, fine wine tasting for all the drivers and crews.
Vino.
Corey is a big wine fan. He's always talking about.
He's always whining.
Paco and I always buy bags of wine when we're out at party events. We just what are the bag wine options at Sonoma? That's kind of my question.
You have a nice Grenache. There's going to be a good Cabernet blend. There's going to be some Merlot grapes up there. Very nice soft Pinots. If you need something a little bit more temperate, it'll be good for you.
Well,
one time I bought a bag of wine. I bought a bag of wine and I saw the name on it and I was like, "What is it? Chilable? I've never heard of Chilable wine before." But it was chillable. It meant that you could put it in the fridge. So I'm pretty cultured.
Nice.
And San Francisco's got some really good rollerblading, not too far from there. If you're trying to hang out in the Castro, shirtless, cut off jean shorts, Corey, this is a spot for you.
I can't wait.
And there's poop, there's poop in every corner too.
Go and wear Birkenstocks. You can do that, or you can go across to Oakland and get a little bit more gangster.
Yeah, which I
That's
mean,
where I'll be.
gentrified gangster these days, but still gangster, I guess.
Nice.
Well, that's all very exciting. I'm very excited about those new tracks. I cannot wait to see them in person. It's going to be very fun. We got a bunch of super chat questions that I think are kind of going into the realm of Kevin Wells' chat, but I want to, of course, at least recognize them, and you guys can just say, save it for Kevin Wells. But let's see. We have Chris Nelson saying, "What's up with seat mounting location rules?" That seems like a very Kevin Wells question.
I think that was a misunderstanding also on the way the rule was updated on the.
Yeah, there's been some hubbub on
Yeah.
our internet Driftcast forum and all that, but people are upset about seat mounting stuff. But any comments on that, or talk to Kevin?
How about first? Yes, talk to Kevin. But second is the analysis of the rulebook. Is it the right version? Is it the Kevin Wells from the Formula Drift version, or is there? We've also seen confusion because people were referring to old versions of the rulebook.
Yeah, I think and I think in this case, like the only point that was mentioned about the seats is that it said it needs to be mounted on the factory location, and a lot of people understood that as in the car's factory location, where the rule meant on the seats factory mounting locations, which means you can't just make your own holes in the seat.
Right, correct.
Yeah. So
But you could use a slider or a bracket to push it back for string beans like James Dean and Forrest and all these tall boys.
But it says the S chassis, you are able to knock out the cat hump and relocate. So it's depending on chassis.
Yeah. Well, we'll get it deep into that with
Yeah,
Kevin.
that's a K Wells.
We're not dodging the question, but we want to talk about bigger picture stuff with the dads. Like Paul Velichkov's question: any changes to FD Japan in 2020?
There will be one venue on the FD Japan circuit. Fuji, I don't think is available because of a lot of 2020 Olympic-related activities. Even D1 experienced it, where they always went to Odaiba. Odaiba, that area is being converted to a lot of Olympic activities and all kinds of stuff. So, next year's Olympics, and there's all kinds of stuff affecting Japan from now until probably months after the Olympics is gone.
how you real quick before we move on from Japan, how do you guys feel that FD Japan is growing over there? Like, do you guys feel like more acceptance?
The challenge for drifting in Japan as a whole is unlike here. I think the willingness for the general public to take on something new is much more. It's much easier, I feel, here. So there is still a lot of car enthusiasts that can be and needs to be converted to drifting as a whole. But with that said, FD Japan, after 6 seasons, have done a tremendous job as kind of the in a sense the underdog, right? They're fighting a established brand that's backed by the largest automotive publishing conglomerate in Japan, and in essence kind of kicking their ass in a lot of different ways. Social media wise, the numbers are way higher. Global audience wise, it's better. We're way better at live streaming and getting the competition of the product out, integrating both Japanese and English commentating, really good English commentating with Ryan and Ryan, to really understand what's going on there. They have a full field every time. I mean, they haven't created a Pro 2 type series just yet, but it's on the brink of that. They're getting 50, 60 car entries, every round. It's healthy. I think the Formula Drift set of rules that are being applied is being seen by competitors as reasonable, as fair. Our transparency, our clarity has helped, and it's drawn competitors there. And obviously in the recent years too, because of the proximity to other Asia, Southeast Asian countries, and even New Zealand, Australia, there's been slowly a larger pool of international drivers flowing into FD Japan, and that's kind of added to its flair and its diversity. So it's been good. I mean, they still need to try to attract more fans, sell more tickets, sell more sponsors, like any other event. But all in all, they've done a really good job.
Yeah, I mean, just to add to that, what people might be surprised, but even though Japan is the birthplace of drifting, the size and scope of drifting relative to the United States doesn't even compare on every metric, on brands that are willing to invest into the sport, to the number of drivers, to the amount of people that come out to events, to live stream viewership, to TV viewership, all that kind of stuff. Doesn't even compare. And Mr. Iwata, the guy that runs the Japan series, one of the ways that he's kind of distinguished himself from D1 in particular is he's been very driver centric, very driver focused. And so if you look at his driver entries, he actually has a really hard time trying to figure out how many drivers he can accept into his event weekends. Right now, he's basically capping it at 60 drivers. Whereas, D1 is having a hard time fielding more than 23, 24 drivers on a lot of their event weekends. So he has taken a little bit of a different approach in the way that he's presented the sport, because there, things like social media are much different that we've noticed. The way that they sell tickets is completely counterintuitive to us. And so it's been really challenging for us to kind of understand how to market the series in Japan. I mean, they still sell tickets at outlets over there. There's not really like online transactions for as surprising as that might seem to you. And the idea of like online advertising is kind of foreign when we've looked into it in terms of how to get people to come out to events. But his model is much, much different. He focuses a lot more on TV. He has 52 weeks of TV shows that he does. So every single week he has a show, and the series gets incorporated into that. And then obviously he's doing the live stream for the international audience and for fans of FD Japan that are here in the States and globally. But it's a much different animal than it is compared to our series back home here.
I want to hit the other super chats during the end of the show when we do Instagram and the final roundup of questions. But before we get there, let's kind of wrap our 2020 discussion. And again, we apologize. We're not going to talk about everything or nearly 10% of what everyone wants to talk about. But let's start moving into our final 2020 discussion, and then we'll hit the any remaining super chats and Instagram questions. Now is the time. If you want to get a question in, make sure it is read. Hit that super chat on YouTube. Otherwise, ask it on Instagram. We'll try to get to it.
I have two things before we jump to IG.
Yeah, of course. That's what this is for, Corey.
You guys ready for Daigo to be back? And how do you think that's going to affect next year? Like, how's I don't know. I just have this amazing feeling about next year, and especially that man coming in, especially in FRS.
Yeah.
So
8-6.
Right, like we talked about like eras, right? Like there was the most recent the Drift Alliance era of Vaughn and Chris, and then kind of dominating. You had Daigo's kind of surprise entry and brought a different level of competition and his domination for a period of time, and obviously now with James, and obviously with bridging that was drivers like Frederick and how consistent in his performance and him obviously winning a championship. This may be, correct me if I'm wrong, this may be the first time that in a sense the worlds have collided. They've come at different phases throughout Formula Drift history, but having them kind of all converge together, really truly the best of the best is meeting in James and Daigo. But remember, Frederick is there, Chris is there, Vaughn is there, amongst the pool of other drivers that are there as well. So it may be, we've seen competitive years, but it may be the most competitive season to date.
Mm-hmm. And I'm excited. I was kind of bummed at first, real quick on the car. I was kind of bummed at first to see he was in an 8.6, thinking like, oh, the Super is the new shit. Like, I wish he was in that. But politics aside, there can only be so many people in Super seats, Toyota backed and all that. But now there's no debate about chassis. Like, we know that the 8.6 is a chassis that can win rounds, and I don't think 8.6 has won a championship yet, but we know it's a car that can win rounds, and it's going to be very skill-based between a battle that will definitely happen of a Daigo Dean battle, and we can't blame a chassis for a failure at that part necessarily. So I'm excited to see he's in a tried and true chassis.
Well, essentially, it is literally the year of the champions. I think the only 2 champions he doesn't have running is Matt and Reese Millen
And Tanner.
Outside of that, I think you guys may have, out of those 3, all champions competing this year.
Hey,
Well,
X is gone. We should lobby for Tanner to come back.
Yeah.
There's a really interesting parallel going on here that I think is maybe a little bit apt here. If you're a fan of fighting, one of the things that fans criticize promoters for the most is that they don't book the fights that they want them to book. They'll book Mayweather Pacquiao, but they'll do it when maybe Pacquiao is a little bit later in years, and they'll say you never really got those 2 guys to fight in their prime. Right. Or they'll criticize the UFC for not bringing in Fedor Emelianenko and having him fight one of the better heavyweights at that time, and he ends up never fighting, and it becomes a what if type story. In drifting, it's a little bit different, right? You want to see the best guys in the world competing against each other, and with all due respect to our our friends that are and we even work on the FIA event, what people I think really want to see in global drifting is the best guys coming together at the most developed time of their program, right? When their programs are really firing on all cylinders, they've had development, they've had time to put it in, and they are bringing the best of the best. And I think 2020 is probably the most prime example of what that could potentially be, given where RTR is at, how much time they've had to develop those chassis, what we know about James and Peter, what I'm sure is going to be some incredible announcements coming from other drivers in the series, bringing new chassis out. And of course, we can expect really great things from Papadakis Racing. So while there's still a lot of question marks out there on what everybody's going to bring and what it's going to look like and how it's going to perform and all that kind of stuff, I think at this point in everybody's drifting career, having done it for this long, a lot of the big guys and a lot of the showstoppers are going to give us an amazing 2020 season to contemplate.
Yeah, it's that statement right there has kind of made me more excited about it than it even was already for the new tracks. But just thinking about the potential Ring of Champions that are going to be gunning for it all. I mean, maybe Daigo will be a dud, but also we know at the same time that he is a monster of the sport and can absolutely dominate. Like, I was bummed in his last season at FD in the R35 that didn't seem to work right for him, but I remember also the SC chassis, the SOAR, whatever you want to call it, and just the complete and utter dominance of Daigo that year. And it's like I'm very excited for what a Daigo Dean and Daigo Chelsea and Daigo Forsberg and go down the roster matchup will look like.
You won't get to see it just once; you'll get to see it 8 times.
Yeah, it's gonna be often. What else, Paco? Do you have any other 2020 remarks? And hopefully, we're gonna talk to them again at least a little bit before Long Beach. And again, we're going to be talking to judges and Kevin Wells about rules and all that stuff, and in addition to all the teams and the builders and drivers. But what final things might you have for these gentlemen, Paco?
I wanted to real quick talk about live streaming and what's it called, like other sources of video media. Like, I mean, you guys still gonna do the TV show? Any changes on live streaming? Any updates?
Are you trying to ask if we have a job next year, Paco?
And part of that.
You don't have to answer that yet.
They're quiet.
Okay.
I mean, I guess.
I know.
No, I mean, this year actually it seemed like this year was very smooth when it comes to live stream. Like, it was actually the least amount of complaints about the live stream's dead I've ever seen. So same thing, like this year seems like it was very good. But I mean, do you guys have any news, any changes, any updates?
Yeah, I mean, just to touch on that briefly, I mean, to simplify it, as Jim mentioned earlier on in the conversation, the live stream content bucket is one of our main pillars. Last year, we invested a lot into producing content that was not live stream related, but that was to support kind of the stories that we wanted to tell in between rounds. and all that stuff from all measurements that we can look at was very, very successful. I think we were on track to we're pacing towards Irwindale to do something like 50 million content views. So for a series like us, that was a big margin of success, almost more successful than the live stream itself. And the live stream is kind of our main portal into what we do. And so I think, we're going to continue to invest in that. I think you may see some potential changes in the way that we do production related to judging and to camera angles and to what drone we're going to be using and what replays we're going to be using and things of that nature. But it is certainly an area of big interest for us to make sure that we're getting that right. And there's also some things that are, I don't know what the percentage of them is going to be going through, but there could be some pretty substantive changes into the way that we do our presentation, how we do our production overall. But for sure, 100% live stream and content is going to be a big part of what we do next year. And we're going to keep doing more of it and hopefully better quality.
I'm sure production stuff, as I know from my world, is always changing up until the minute you go live. So
Yeah.
I'm sure you can't ask about specific camera angles and usage like that, but I'm excited to see and hear that there's efforts made to make that show cooler. The only real 2020 question that I had to wrap up with was, we talked about the new tracks. Are there any sport-related changes not related to live stream, not related to tracks that are big and pressing that might not be known widely yet? Is there something drastically changing or even less drastically changing?
Not really. I mean, I think what we may have stated before in previous shows is, the addition of Kevin Wells and placing him as the competition director has brought stability in terms of how rules change and what are put in place. And he's done a really good job with phasing new rules in. And in some cases, allowing teams to have multiple seasons to kind of get things up to date. And he kind of anticipates that in advance. So in terms of that, not really, nothing significant. There's things that we were tweaking. We're always looking at new tools. He's always, tinkering and researching new ways to implement new things. But until they are, signed off and green lighted, just know that we are not having an off season. This is not an off season. We're
Right.
not on vacation. There is a lot of work being done. This is probably the busiest off season. It's been the craziest since post Irwindale that I think at least for me, I felt, and I know a lot of the other guys that have been, jumping around all over the world and different places and in office work and things like that. It's been the most busy off season in a long time.
That's good to
Yes,
know.
and we're making a big announcement at PRI tomorrow. Shh.
Ooh, okay, good to know. That's spicy. So how do
And
we?
will that
I
be
guess
on? Will that be on your guys' blog or anything?
live
Yeah,
journal.
we'll post
Ryan
it.
Sages.
Was I not supposed to say that, Jim?
No, we are.
That's okay.
Yeah, it's like
Yeah.
I think 11 o'clock our time.
Is it going to be
It's
on Ryan
almost
Sages
tomorrow.
live journal or
No.
It's
no?
gonna be on
Okay.
his TikTok.
TikTok. Hell yeah. Corey, any closing remarks before we get to
No,
questions?
I'm just gonna call it. I think 2020 is gonna be the year of the one more time. I think it's gonna be.
Oh, please, no more one more time.
It's gonna be the year of one more time. I'm just.
We're phasing out one more time. It's done. No more.
Yeah,
I hope you guys
Corey,
announce that
just to-
tomorrow.
just
I
to
hope
prove you
announce that
wrong.
tomorrow.
Just to
You
prove
guys
you
had
wrong.
you guys had a lot this year, but I think.
You guys need to put a bet over under. Somebody pick a number and let's tally the year or something.
I mean, new
I
judge.
would be.
New judge is gonna,
He's
new
gonna
judge.
hit one more time every single battle. Anyways.
Yeah, I
It's
mean,
gonna
I
be
would-
between
I would-
He's
Eggert and
experienced.
Lottane.
He's experienced. He knows what he's doing. So don't worry about him.
Here's a couple things you can bet on. The over under on the new judge, no matter who it is still going to be hated.
Yeah,
Okay.
definitely.
And the more successful you are in Formula D, the more hated you are. So James is going to be the villain next year. Actually, he
Yeah.
already is the villain.
He
already
was the
is.
villain at four. As soon as that
Yeah.
thing went down for us, yeah, dude, I've never seen booze and people taking off their Wardhouse shirts, and I was like, my
I don't think the moment happened, but I wanted to see like Chris walk over to him and just like pat him on the shoulder, and they could both look at each other and be like, "I know now."
That's
All right. Guys,
Last
anything
little bit.
you want to say that we didn't hit on, and when we're just going to do some Instagram and Facebook and YouTube and all the other questions? Anything we missed that you wanted to announce to the internet?
I'm good.
Good. Drop the mic, except for all of the super chats and Instagrams. You guys want to go through Instagram, and I'll hit those last super chats.
Yeah, the super
we'll
chats.
just, get 2 or 3 out there before because you guys are flying out tonight or tomorrow. You guys will be at PRI.
No PRI. We're going to Japan on Monday.
Oh, gotcha.
All right, check those grams, boys, for good questions. Super chat, Andrew Falk. Thoughts on FD round at Calare? I hope I'm saying that right. Or Midvale in Ohio. Have you ever considered an Ohio round?
We've looked at both. Again, why do I always talk about the boring stuff? We've researched it. We've talked about it. We've actually even been there.
Okay.
And it's not Calare. It's Kilcare.
Oh, he typoed it, Andrew. You made me look like an asshole, Andrew. Thanks.
All right,
it's a great place. It's a great hub. Our program partner MDU has been there for years, and it was one of the on our A list of places to go. Unfortunately, it just does not have enough paved paddock to be able to house what we're trying to bring in. Everybody's going to be on grass and mud and all that kind of stuff, and we can't have that.
Got to move forward, but maybe someday other tracks will try to. I hope it gets to the point where tracks are fighting to build accommodations for Formula Drift to choose them as the lucky track. Knives Nine, Knives Nine asked, and this is probably a deeper Kevin Wells question we'll get to, but might also help to hear from you guys. Will you be using car data to help judging in 2020, or is there another reason for the new rules on data access for 2020?
Oh yeah. I talked to Kevin about that. We've been talking about that for a long. We've been taking data off cars for a long time, for many different reasons. I think using it in judging in 2020, no, in real time, but using it to inform ourselves, and most importantly, for things that we'll let Kevin speak to when he comes on, is incredibly important for us to know about what's going on. I think the main underlying point for that is that the physics is never going to change, but how drivers are able to manipulate those physics and make the cars do things that are completely counterintuitive when you think about it on the face of it is something that we're incredibly interested in. And there's a lot of data to absolutely blow your mind. So that's one of the reasons he wrote that in there. And he's made some public comments about that. So there's certainly probably more to come.
Cool. What you got on the grams?
Drop a Gear 7. I know we were asking boring questions, but Drop a Gear 7 is asking something we all wanted to ask, but we're dropping it now. He wants to know who has a better haircut, Steph Papadakis or Ryan Sage.
That's good.
We have the same haircut.
Oh, yeah, but who does it? Who wears it?
That's like a riddle. That's like a riddle. It's not even a question.
Who wears it better?
Same person, dude. Same.
Do you guys ever think that there's one bald guy on Earth and he just is constantly changing personas and disguises?
Probably. That seems more logical than actually people shaving their head.
Yeah. Okay. My best friend Greg Buccelli says, "Will there be hot wings at FD this year?" Asking for a friend. Will there be hot wings?
Will there be what?
Hot wings.
Domino's.
Greg
Domino's
wants
hot wings or like Buffalo Wild Wings hot wings?
Well, Greg has already started a business without actually starting the business of selling hot wings. Greg, he's one of my personal life coaches and a hero of mine. He somehow hasn't actually made a wing in his life, but he's got a hot wing business. It's confusing. I'm not sure if he was asking this because you guys were actually planning on having Greg make his imaginary wings at your events, or I guess not. I guess Greg, the answer is no, judging by their faces.
There you go. Hold on.
But I would consider
this dude's username.
I'm still trying to figure out. Is he? Actually, I thought he was referring to like arrow wing or like hot wing, like hot wing.
He's talking about like
wings.
chicken, pieces of chicken, fried and hot
smothered.
Yeah, he wants you to hire him We're getting trolled a bit here, Greg. I need to talk to you after the show. Hit me up, bud.
All right.
Corey, what you
Greg,
got?
This is
Greg,
actually-
Greg's got to DM us. We got to talk. We got to talk about hot
We gotta
wings.
talk some
All
wings.
right.
All right,
Hell
so
yeah.
the username alone is just worth the question. The username is Dragon Titties.
Yeah.
Ooh.
And he goes, as a fan, spectator, what can we do or make sure to definitely not do to keep your lives easy during an event?
Mm.
To keep our lives
I
easy.
appreciate that so
That's
much.
I was gonna
that's-
say for Dragon
that
Titties,
is
that's
Dragon
the-
very
Titties.
respect-
Very
that
good.
is- I love dragon titties. I love that's I actually, frankly speaking, I really appreciate that. No, I mean, you could. How do you make it easy? I mean, if there's something going on that's that's wrong, feel free. I mean, we've always said it. We're open to critiques. We're open to getting input. Just have the courtesy to, present it in a about to explode in your face kind of way. Like, don't flip out. We're here to help. We make mistakes. If there's things happening, just let us know. We'll work on it.
Yeah.
Dragon
By the
It's
way,
very nice.
Dragon Titty says Hunter or he drove Desert Mayhem this weekend.
Wonderful. What a great
Yeah,
human being.
he's which
Really good at naming stuff.
Yep.
Cares about the dads. Has got some real dad
Yeah.
love.
hopefully we'll get
we
a
kinda-
chance to talk about it a little bit after we leave, let dads go to bed.
Well, we should do more of a dedicated
Yeah.
talking this at the end of the show, but we'll do that next time. I think. Let's hit these questions. Max Frolic, we kind of touched on it a little bit, but I want the on the nose answer. He says, "Are we going to see more added to the show, as in lighting, smoke, fire, animations? Will there be lighting, smoke, fire, ice, any pyro next year?"
There will be lighting. There will be smoke. There will be animations. What was the other one?
Pyro. I was thinking like a flamethrower. Like if I could have a flamethrower to kind of shoot above people's heads, like to pump them up. Corey is looking for. Have you seen the Rocketeer? Corey's kind of going for that, but fat, like a fat Rocketeer. So that's just a concept we've been tossing around there. Any of that stuff coming?
Yeah, we were thinking about, is it going to be pyro at every event, or have Corey and Andy Luck do a nice hula dance naked for a halftime show each event? So you take your pick.
I would say as long as it's a tasteful nudity, like I would say like a Porky Pig style, where that's a t-shirt and no bottoms. So
yeah, we'll pour spaghettios over you guys from the air.
Yeah.
We'll fly it in. Johnny will fly it in with the drone and dump it all over you.
So
And
Max,
then
it
we'll
sounds like
red camera, super slow mo.
yeah, Max, it sounds like you got an answer, and the answer is yes.
I have one right here from Sir Joshikins. What's more dad? Cargo shorts, having dinner at Chili's, or New Balance tennis shoes?
Oh my god!
It's a question for the dads themselves.
I like New Balance.
Yeah, I know, Dad.
Yeah, that's
New
what I'll
Balance
do.
is cool people shoes.
Yeah.
What about eating at Chili's? Is that cool or is that too dad?
I eat at Chili's,
Daddy, I guess.
and I'm a dad. Does that make it?
I mean, that's the answer to the question, I think.
Eating at
Just-
Chili's is more dad than cargo shorts.
No,
Alright, so
cargo
Jim-
shorts is definitely more dad. No.
But Jim likes New Balance, eats at Chili's. Cargo shorts? Do you own a pair of cargo shorts, camo?
I don't, not anymore.
Jared
Paco's
does
a
like
couple.
cargo shorts.
Yeah, I'm all about the cargo
Jared owns
camo.
a pair of cargo shorts that are.
Oh my
that are,
God.
Well, he's a
camo.
dad.
Definitely.
He wore them every single event for like 10 years.
Yeah. Well, Jared, Vaughn, and Paco all share the same pair of camo cargos.
They're just in the rotation.
At the drive-thru says, would you guys ever return to 5-judge panel? Feel like it would serve better for today. High-level competition with intense battles would help determine outcomes more than have too many one more times.
Yeah, I mean, I guess we just talked about that recently within the past like 2 or 3 weeks. I think we have considered it, and we kind of are considering it. The challenge becomes how to implement those other 2 judges into qualifying, if at all. The if at all part becomes much more simpler if you don't put them into qualifying, because right now each judge has a criteria that they handle. I think it definitely could be helpful in head-to-head action, because you're going to get more judges' results coming in. You can, do a system, maybe drop 2 of the scores, or you just do unanimous or whatever. So I think it's very interesting. Feasible, plausible. That's tougher to say.
Mm-hmm. A quick practical one that I like that I've had answered personally through the years, but one that I think a lot of people probably don't understand or don't know. Jake and Bake, very good. Jake and Bake 73 says, "How come you guys go from NJ to Seattle, then back to St. Louis? Why not go in order around the states?"
I think we've been pretty good about routing. I mean, there is one little zag, but it's again, we're not commanding venue dates, so there are windows of time where we can go, and sometimes it's weather, sometimes it's what's available at the track, and so we try to route best as possible. I mean, we went from Long Beach, Orlando, Atlanta, New Jersey, up the Eastern Seaboard. That's pretty good, right? And then we go from there to Seattle, and then yes, we have to cross back to St. Louis, Texas, and then back to Irwindale. So there's a little bit of halfway back to the middle, the United States. Not ideal, but we could have done, New Jersey, St. Louis, Seattle, and then back to Texas. I don't know, right? So now we were just drawing lines. I mean, just as long as we're not zigzagging from, Long Beach to New Jersey, back to Sonoma, then to Atlanta, and then to Seattle, I think most teams will be okay.
And I hate to keep on reading Max's questions. There's so many others out there, but this one actually just kind of caught me off guard a little bit because I haven't thought about it. He said, "Could the sound be upgraded for the live stream viewership so I can hear cars going around the whole track clearly?" I've never really taken it. I guess I should say I've taken it for granted in that I know what all the cars sound like from being at the events, and it's like one of the most visceral, greatest parts. And I'd really like to annoy my neighbors when I'm watching live stream at home. Is there a way to make the sound crisper, louder for replays or something? Let's hear those 2Js bouncing off rev limiters.
It's so funny that is one of the most common questions that we get,
Really?
or that I see is I want to hear more. I want to hear less Jared, more cars.
Shut up, Jared and Ryan. I want to hear cars.
But the leveling that we have NAT microphones all over the track. All the cameras have microphones. And the way that we program that is basically like the standard way that you program sporting events. It's just enough to hear the natural sound, but so that it doesn't drown out the commentators. So I know where it's coming from. It's coming from the super hardcore fans that want to hear the craziness and the robustness of the cars. Mm-hmm. But in practicality, if we did the opposite, you would have a massive freak out of people not knowing what's going on. So you kind of have to. There's a little bit of an industry standard there that you kind of have to play with. We do, if people pay attention on the replays, we will bump up the NAT sound a little bit. Okay. But also I don't really know what the majority of fans really want other than what everybody else is really doing that are doing sporting events. It's hard to know if 10 people speak up, it's hard to know if that's representative of everybody wants more car sounds or if they want to hear commentary or if they want to hear it balanced. It's just a hard thing to understand.
Well, I just got a text from everyone, and they just said that they want to hear with a big logo animation on the bottom that says raw sound run, and it's after a crazy run when you got 10 seconds of downtime, it's have that big raw sound run animation on the bottom and just hear that blow out your speakers and headphones, or it could just say sorry headphones users, and then just go really fucked up decibels. It's I know, and that's as the common theme I've learned from all of the shows we've done with you guys over the years is. For every question we or anyone has to ask, you always say, "Oh yeah, we've talked about that, and this is why." So, one of these days we're gonna catch you off guard, dads. One of these days.
We'll see.
You guys got any more? Anything else stand out to you, boys?
I think we're.
Brian, you've been sitting quietly this whole show. Brian, you guys have talked to Brian a couple times, no doubt. Brian is always listening, and then asks one bomb of a question at the end of the show. Brian, you have anything for the dads?
Is the new judge a previous driver?
I love the deadpan.
Does he wear a mustache? What was that game?
Guess
was Clue.
Yeah, guess who?
Sorry, my voice is a little messed up because I'm not feeling good.
So we can answer Brian's question. Yeah.
Yeah. The answer is yes.
Yeah, it is.
All right.
That's gonna make a lot of people happy.
Brian, I'll admit, I remember from previous podcasts, you definitely asked the most informed and intelligent questions. So good job.
Yeah, he doesn't. He just listens quietly the whole show, and then he's like, he takes in the 2 hours of bullshit that we say and compartmentalizes that into like the one thing we've missed, and it's wonderful.
Thanks, guys.
But today he asked for a
All right, we'll
clue, which is that's a new one.
Which is what? What'd you say?
Today he asked for a clue instead of asking
Yeah.
a question. So
But he
that's
knew
a first.
But that's why it's so well informed, because he knows they're not going to say the answer, and he asked for just the right amount, because we did get an answer for that clue, which I think narrows it down to only about 300 people.
And if you pay real close attention to social media, that is literally the number one question that people ask.
Oh yeah.
Next
Everyone's
judge
so
better be a
curious.
previous driver. The
Yeah.
next judge better understand driving. The next judge. So Brian
Yep.
answered
Mm-hmm.
and squashed a lot of.
Yep.
The next judge better be able to rep 400 pounds over his head.
Yeah,
and
that's why I said a couple minutes ago that the over under for that person being known as a moron and an idiot is going to be pretty high, even if they are a previous driver. They're going to be, you don't know anything, you need anything else other than a former driver to understand how to judge drifting.
Yeah.
So that's my prediction.
No one is qualified entirely for that very challenging job, but I'm sure that they will be as good as they can be, but probably not as good as Andy Yen.
Yep.
But we'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see. I'm sure it'll be someone great. Guys, thank you so much for spending all this time with us and talking about FD, our favorite sport and entire thing in the world, what we base our podcast on. And we're very excited to hear this magical announcement tomorrow. We're excited to hear about the new judge. We're excited about 2020's tracks and everything we're going to learn as the release bombshells occur, throughout succession over the next 4 months. And hopefully we'll talk to you guys again, but we'll be talking to your staff, the drivers in the series, everyone in between in the weeks leading up to it. Anything you want to say to the haters, the fans, Corey, Paco,
lovers.
Brian?
Suck it.
Suck it, everyone. Do that.
It's okay.
What's the Corey?
It's okay.
That's
a lot of
D-Generation
supply
X.
tickets to come
Yeah,
to the
the
event.
DX.
so.
Awesome.
Well, we're gonna.
Thank you so much.
So I want to let Jim and Ryan go to bed, but before we all go to bed, we just have to do the steering wheel giveaway. So
Yeah, we'll do it after the dads get out.
yeah, so just let's not say goodbye to the whole show.
Kiss the
just
dads on the forehead. Good night, Paco, and then we're gonna send them off. Thank you,
you,
all right,
guys.
guys, have a good night.
Everybody, enjoy.
Always a pleasure, guys.
Take
Thank you for everything.
Take a break. Enjoy your holidays. Once January comes around, it's going to be insane.
Yeah, can't wait. I'm just gonna enjoy the time off while it exists.
Thanks, guys.
All right, good night,
Later,
guys.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I'm gonna let them hang up. There you go. Good job. Yeah, I just
Later,
wanted.
dads.
Bye, dads.
Later, you old squares. Why don't you hang out at Applebee's?
Dads, and then
Yeah.
drink hard iced teas.
Hard
Yeah.
iced teas at Applebee's.
With
If they
your-
run out of apples, take the bees.
With your New
If you're
Balances.
brave.
Yeah.
Eat the bees, you
Hey.
cowards.
I got an idea. Why don't you go to Outback Steakhouse and have an onion ring?
Wow.
Bloomin' onion on. Bloomin' onion on
Calm
me.
down, Corey. Don't be so crass.
Yeah.
So
All
offensive.
right, Paco, you trying to give away this steering wheel? What's up with this wheel? you
Well,
want
so
to
let
give
me
away?
first of all, I just wanna give our Patreons a huge, pretty big boner because
Okay, what happened?
Dads are gone. We can talk nasty now.
Yeah.
It's time to get
Boots
nasty.
and butts and farts, dude, everywhere, dude. Just everybody farting everywhere.
oh yeah, and smelling it like
Dude,
yeah.
Oh yeah, dude. Just
Especially
right
because
anywhere.
we got a lot of new Patreons joining us.
Oh, sick. Thanks,
To
Patreons.
to
They just want free shit. They don't want to support our show.
Well, obviously.
Yeah, that's
But
fair.
I wanna
But if they
like
can support the show while potentially winning free shit, that's the best thing.
yeah. I mean, might as well, right? So want to give a shout out to some of our new Patreons, Connor Minto, Chris Nelson, Shits for Brains. He's in the chat, very active.
Oh yeah, so is Chris. He just
yeah.
told me that we need Baby Yoda. I did promise in the
Oh, that's
head of
right.
the show that I was going to talk about Baby Yoda memes for the last hour of the show. So
Yep.
this is going to do the Baby Yoda hour.
Hey Sam, also real quick in YouTube, what did Knives 9 just write? I don't understand it.
He said hip hip a bone hair.
What's that?
Bone hair?
Yeah.
That's like the gristle you get on the meat bone when you put it in your mouth.
What is it
Bone
called?
hair. Bone hair.
Okay.
Good. Anyways,
Chris Nelson says, still haven't got my stuff. Hold on. Drop everything. What stuff, Chris? All right,
and
sorry,
also
continue.
new Patreon Andrei Nemtsov. New Patreon Brian Panyarachum. Hopefully I didn't butcher your name.
Pinata
You,
Chum.
you didn't butcher that
I
one
didn't
bit.
butcher
No.
that one. Scott A.
Pinata
Johnston, Joe Alvis, Ryan, Austin Davison,
How many more
Wade.
names? I know we're doing the most
Yeah.
entertaining podcast on the internet here. But what?
Hey, I just want to know, did Dick Cheeseburger end up donating anything?
Yeah, he did
Yeah.
69 cents. Wade,
Noriaro said he still regularly uses his spaghetti mug. Noriaro here. He's our #1 super fan. It's kind of annoying, if I can honestly say it truthfully. Calm down, Noriaro.
Thanks,
Can't even say it right.
Alexi.
Yeah.
I said
All right,
Austin Davison, Wade Wilson, Alika Nuesca. And yep, those are all our new Patreons. Thank you
the
guys.
new guys, they're little fish. We appreciate you, but what about the
Yeah.
dudes that have been there since like day
Yeah.
one?
So
Yeah,
here's
those
the
are the
thing.
real
I want to.
These are the guys you need to try to be.
I wanna-
Because I don't think any of us have made any money off the show yet. We just keep on spending the money to get better equipment. Buy Corey's house, as you can see in the background. Audio only listeners. He's got a new, beautiful, looks like a winter home with a bunch of wood furnishings and nice warm light for the cold winter day.
I have directly behind me. There's stockings with hot dogs in them. I don't know if you can see that, but
Hey, his house smells of mahogany and
Mahogany.
rich mahogany.
Oh,
and
Nick Mahogany is that his name?
Nick Mahogany.
yeah,
Okay. Paco.
yes.
What are real quick because we read so many names
Yes.
already. Who are some of the old guard
Okay.
that have been there for a long time?
Some of our biggest Patreons we have going on. Keith Johnson.
Keith,
You know,
man.
a good old Keith Johnson, big time. Andy Greenstead is being with us for
the Stead man.
quite a while. He just raised his Patreon to get more chances to get the wheel. So thanks, Andy.
Damn.
Yep. We have another one. Let's see right here. Some of the OGs. Scan Gauge is still with us.
Yeah.
Yeah. And local Arizona business. We have blah, 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 blah. Your mom joined Patreon, by the way, Sam.
She wants that wheel, dog.
Yeah.
No,
I
that's
mean,
your college fund, Sam. You're gonna be dumb for the rest of your life because you didn't get a college degree because your mom wants a grip royal steering wheel, dude.
I did get a college
Sorry.
degree
Just
in
kidding.
journalism.
You're gonna
and I'm
be
using
double
it right
dumb.
now with this hard journalism we're doing.
You're gonna be double dumb, dude.
she's actually been a
double
patron
down?
since
You're
2017.
gonna be
So
double dumb.
My mom's been a Patreon since
since
2017.
2017, yep.
That's why
She's-
she can't afford to give me Chris's presents. God damn it. Oh, Corey's been waiting to put himself in his car the whole time. Corey, audio only listeners. Corey's now driving down the road in his hot Rari that Patreon dollars have gotten for him. I
Tyler
don't know why Corey's getting all the Patreon money.
Tyler Hutchinson, Corey Grove, Nate Spinks, Daniel Castrillo, Max Cudahy, all these guys. I mean, they've been doing it for a while, and you know,
We'll
and
do
big
Next
numbers.
fan appreciation app. We'll get hard into the names of everyone that's been supporting, but we appreciate all y'all out there. Make it possible to do the show and do this giveaway, which we're about to do. Tell us about what the product is and how we're going to give it away.
Let me go back to the camera. So this is it. This is the Grip Royal exclusive steering wheel. There's only 2 of them. One is in my car. The other one is going to be on your car. Whoever wins, it gets a Grip Royal unique maximum drift. As you can see right there, it's got its own laser edge maximum drift cast.
It's kind of like a 2-way radio too, so it's like anytime you touch it, you can feel whatever Paco's touching. So
Yeah.
you have to be careful with when you touch that steering wheel, because Paco might have his hands on anything.
Yeah. So
That's some really hard wood too.
good. It's hardwood. Yeah. It's the best kind of.
It's thin, but it's hard.
It's the best kind of hardwood. It's morning wood.
Oh.
Yeah. And so I have in total we have 187 entries. The way this works, if you give us $1 on Patreon, you get 1 entry. If you give us $2, you get 2 entries, and $5 give you 5 entries. So I want to.
How do we? And this isn't. And to be clear, also, this is the biggest giveaway I've done in a while. but there's more, so don't go quit right after this.
Oh,
Because
yeah.
at the end of the day, you're gonna hopefully support our show going forward. If you've listened this long, there's something to it, hopefully, or you're just looking for ammo to make fun of us. Whatever, that's fine too, as long
Yep.
as you listen. But don't stop after this, please, because we're gonna do more giveaways, and you're supporting
Yep.
Yeah.
the best drifting podcast.
I'm gonna give away a bag of bone hair.
That sounds nice.
Nice. So I'm gonna do.
So how are you gonna give it?
Okay, so I have 187 numbers. I already put everybody's numbers on a list, and then I randomized it. So everybody had a number. It get randomized, and now everybody, they have a random number from 1 to 187, and I have a counter right here online. It's gonna give us three random number between 0 and 187. So what I'm gonna do is the first and second numbers that come up from here, they're gonna get a swag pack, sticker, shirt, and stuff. And the third one is going to get the wheel. With yes.
Can we like kind of propagate one of the numbers ourselves without you having to click the button, just for a swag pack, not for the big prize? Can like rather than you clicking the randomizer, can we just do some simple math, like some crowd generated math? At least the crowd of you guys.
Crowd generated math.
Okay, yeah, hear me out.
Okay.
Yeah.
What's 420 divided by 69?
420. I'll tell you right now. Let me bust.
That's not the number, but I want to know what that number is.
Yeah, hold on. 420 divided by 69.
Yeah.
420 divided by 69 equals. Let me think.
That's
6.
Did you just fart when you said, "Let me think"?
No, I used my calculator. What was that?
Sound like a little chair squeak.
No, dude. No.
All right, so
don't
that's
do
6. That's 6. What's 6 times 9?
6.0.
That's 54. And then what's 420 divided by 54? 7. What's another number we could multiply that by, guys?
I don't know.
I guess we're gonna round that one to 8.
Those are the only dirty numbers, right?
No, it could be whatever number. What's 7.77 times?
Corey, what's your race car number?
Yeah,
32.
what's 32? 7 times 32. That's 248. That's more. What's 248 divided by boobs? That's very good. 80085. That's 0.003. Okay, we got to get higher with these numbers, guys.
Well, that's why I have.
Times that. Times.
This could be the
that
final
by
number.
6.
Okay, times 69. That's 0.2 times 420. That's number 90. Can we give it to number 90, Paco?
So the first swag pack goes to number 90.
Fuck
Yep.
yeah, let's do it.
All right, first swag pack goes to
Murray?
number
What is that
90.
noise?
Jorge Manuel Ribeiro Alves.
Jorge Manuel Vivero Alves.
Joe Alves gets a swag pack.
Swag pack, dog. Congrats,
Yeah.
man.
Let me take a
How
photo
does
of
one,
this.
if he's not listening to
because-
this episode and he's already forgotten about our show, how are you going to tell him on Patreon, or how
Yeah,
will
we're
he know?
gonna let him know through Patreon. So
Awesome.
So that's the first
Cool.
one. Wanna do
The
the
second
second?
one, we should do the random, because people, even though that was clearly a mess of thought,
Well, that's
someone
the thing.
still
The
might say it's
chat.
a big.
The chat could drop numbers in chat too,
Yeah.
Yeah, but what if the chat is I don't know.
like the human calculator.
I'd say for swag packs, let's do another Goofus one.
All right,
but
you
then
guys-
for the,
yeah.
to make the big prize totally random, let's do the
Yeah.
generator.
All
for
right,
that.
so you guys get the numbers from the chat.
All right, so Corey, how do you want to get YouTube chat spiced up?
All right, I need 4 random numbers. Write a number and then put a times, plus, or minus next to it, and then we'll just do. So if you do 69, put a plus at the end.
Just
And then
remember, it
next
has to be a number
52
between 1
minus.
and 187.
1
Yep.
and 187. Okay, so give us some. So 3 for Dale. So
Is that a plus? Is that a 3 or a minus, or what are we gonna do?
No, that's a 3 for Dale. Lanza
Okay.
says 867 5309. All right, very good with that. 8675309. Give us some more numbers.
Come on, chat. What are you doing? Plus or
55.
minus, guys? Please.
Oh, that's fine. We can do the plus and minus thing. It's actually better.
When are we gonna stop though?
Divided by 96, Sam.
Minus 420. All right, so here's what I'm going to do. I'm going
There
to
you
do
go.
3. No, I'm going to start with 8675309 because that one's so long. 8675309.
Just add each one.
8675309 divided by 65. That's 133,000. Divided by 96. That's 1,300 ish.
Minus 420.
Minus 420. That's 970. All right, and then
Minus 777.
Does this give us an actual number? I'll keep
Let's
going
see.
until we got an actual number. That's 193. You said we don't have that many?
Nope.
And then let's do minus 120. Here we go.
Uh-oh.
All right, number 73.
Number 73. So let's look at the list. Going to number 73. Max Kahili. No, Kudihi. I don't know how to say his name. Max Cudahy.
You did your best.
Max Cudahy, you get a swag pack. What number was that? 70.
Lanza 1. Hold on. Lanza 1, I
Oh,
know
boy,
that's a
guys.
song. Lanza
Oh,
1, I
boy.
know it's a song, obviously.
Oh God, we're getting bribed, guys. This is Silas is coming in and he just threw $20 down in super chat asking or stating this is a bribe.
That's fine.
That's a
Silas.
bribe.
Well,
Let's see, Silas. What can we do for Silas?
All right, so
I don't know. We'll think about that later. Silas, great bribe, but don't derail this already loose thread of a thing we have going on.
all right, so are we ready to do the wheel?
Yeah.
All right, so I have
Thanks,
I'm
Alex.
recording a video of the random number generator, so I'll post it so there's no doubt.
Yeah.
All right, so can you guys count to 3 for me?
1,
1,
2,
Dos. 14.
3,
Tracy.
3.
All right, and number 83.
Wow, we
83
didn't-
wins the steering wheel.
Let's see, number 83.
Not Siri.
Luis Thomas.
Luis Francisco Ibarra.
83.
Oh, yeah.
Luis
already have-
Thomas. Let's see.
The guy, Knives 9 is saying random, quote unquote. Can you show him the number generator, Paco?
The what?
Make him. The Knives 9 is accusing this of being rigged.
I'll take a
What's your
photo.
random number generator?
Let me
Show me
take
your
a
random
photo.
number generator,
Hold on.
Paco.
It's right there. Random
Press it
number.
again.
It's a Google random number generator. Very good.
Google
That's quality content, boys.
Random number
It's been a very
generator.
exciting part of the show. But that's
I
awesome.
recorded a
You just
video,
won-
so I'll post it.
You just won the
2,
wheel.
3 C's.
So the wheel's yours. If for whatever reason that guy is dead or doesn't claim it, it'll go to Silas because he bribed us.
Yep.
That almost rhymes. Thank you, Silas, for bribing us. Guys, you want to shut this thing down in a minute?
Yeah, dude.
Yeah. Real
let's
quick,
do
so I mean, let's talk about it next episode for sure. But Desert Mayhem 3 was freaking sick because it just happened this weekend. You know, these events happen only once a year. The Track Society were our guests last episode. They told us like what they're expecting, and they delivered. It was insane. We had a lot of pro drivers showed up. Chelsea, Brad Dan, Ryan Literal, Blake Olson, Andrew Schulte, George Kirakopoulos, and another 50 local warriors. Jeff Jones and Andy Hadley crashed the party, by the way. That was cool. But there was already like a lot of content, photos, videos coming out. We'll posting them online so you guys can check it out.
Did Dustin crash his drone into anybody? That's all I care about.
I saw it crash on the ground, and I think I saw one got hit.
Did
I
he
don't-
crash?
I think I saw one, yeah, but I mean, it just like it landed and came up again. So
Corey's face looks so pumped right now. What's that? What are your sad hot dog lips?
Corey wasn't there, unfortunately.
Corey was doing barnyard action.
Yeah, he came
I
back
was
on
on
Sunday,
Sunday.
and he was twitching, and then he left. he was probably. I mean, you could barely hear his voice obviously after a barnyard. Next day he was still
Yeah.
like, Corey Osford.
He's always yelling at those animals in the barnyard.
Yep.
Hey,
Yo.
before we go, I want to talk about something real fun, really lighten the mood up before the end here. I hope you guys don't mind. I want to hijack for a second.
Okay.
One of my best friends got a brain tumor. It was a cool thing he decided to do, and he thought it'd be fun for his friends and family to get this suddenly First cautionary note on this fact is if any of your pals start acting really weird and doing dumb shit and like walking out in the middle of the night and forgetting where they're going and aren't on a ton of drugs, maybe go take him to the doctor. His girlfriend saved his life by getting him to go to the doctor, and he fought it very hard, but they found a big old tumor in there. And the second part of that is it costs a lot of money for medical care in this day and age for some reason. And it'll cost them a bunch of money. So I'm not asking you guys for anything. You don't have to do shit. But if you did want to donate $1, $2, $5 to one of my buddies, I did an Instagram post. And in that link, you can find a GoFundMe because unfortunately, people need money for brain tumors to pay for them these days. So just that little hijack. If you wanted to give money to the show, don't do it. We don't need, just kidding. You should still give money to the show, but also give money to my friend's brain tumor if you so feel inclined.
Don't
Some
give it to
people.
his brain tumor. Give it to his friend because we want the brain
Yeah,
tumor
give
to
it
go
to
away.
his friend. Yeah. Well, I mean, he has been a lot cooler since he got the brain tumor. He can do much more kick flips now. So he wasn't good at kick flipping before. That is one of the superpowers he gets from the tumor, which I'm kind of hesitant to try to have them remove it at this point because he flips kicks so well. But you know, that's up to him. I want to give him the ammunition. But that's one thought for you guys. If you had some extra money this holidays that you wanted to donate to a cause that would make me happy, that's a selfish reason. That's the only reason I want it. It's just for my own selfish delight.
Well, if you guys want to make
that way, if
Sam
you guys ever
happy.
get brain tumors, I'll give you guys money, guaranteed.
Yeah, just give it to him, not the tumor, because the tumor needs to go away. So if the tumor goes away, the money, that's money to pay for health.
Well, the
Yeah.
tumor got rich off of dank vines in the first place. That was the problem, was the vines that the tumor was
Yeah.
getting. And because of the dank vines it made, it got vine rich, and then it grew and grew and grew. So we got to wipe out the vines. We got to wipe out the tumor. But thank you guys for letting me hijack.
where can they find the link, Sam?
In my Instagram bio.
Perfect.
Or on my personal Facebook. But Instagram bio is the best place. Already a couple of just buddies from Facebook have done stuff. Jared the man Deanda gave a couple of bucks. And I know it's like the worst thing in the world to give a random stranger money on the internet, but trust me when I say it's a good cause. So drop mic, all I got to say about it.
Good job, Sam. Thank you. Thanks for your service,
guys.
and thanks for your friend. Just next time,
Yeah.
tell him to do
He
it.
didn't do anything but get a tumor.
I was saying, like,
That's
yeah,
all he did.
next
He
time,
didn't
just
do
tell him
anything
to do it after the holidays, because
I know, it's a real bummer.
yeah. But
Kind of blew my Thanksgiving, so thanks, Andrew. I tried to tell him that, but he, was out.
yeah. All right, I guess that'll be it.
Yep. Ending on that happy note as always. But thank you for listening to our dad show. We're very excited to always bring you dad con. Oh yeah. Stephanie's reminding me. Hold on. And in a much happier note, I got another cat.
What?
Yeah, look at this.
It's so
Look
little.
how long she is.
It's a long boy.
It's a long girl.
It's a
Very
girl.
cute.
It's a long girl.
Yeah.
You got another cat?
Yeah, I thought it'd be a good idea, and it is.
Well, that's cute.
2 cats are better than 1.
He has
This is
3
three-
cats.
I have
He
3
already-
cats now, Brian.
Yeah.
Oh
We
my
weighed
gosh.
the pros and the cons, and the only con to being a 3-cat family was having 3 cats and the stigma that brings with it. But she's great. Look at this thing.
That's long.
Look how long she can get.
How much was that cat?
Better be
Enough
free.
money. More
How
than
much was that?
enough.
How much?
Enough to party.
I don't need to tell you how much my cat was.
Because I could have went to your friend and he bought a fucking cat. That's fucking
No, I gave my friend a lot of money. Don't worry about that.
Okay. How much was that? If I were to buy a cat tomorrow, how much
Yeah.
would that cat cost me?
How much dollars would you put on a cat? How much money can you put on love, Corey?
I mean, how much cat can you afford, Corey?
The thing is, okay, shit for brain
No,
saying
Corey-
Bengals are
Corey-
expensive.
Corey texted me earlier and he told me he's already
All
drawn
right,
it in
hey
post.
chat. I'm competent chat right now. Please drop what you think Sam paid for that cat in chat right now. Drop it in there. American USD, the finest of the fine. What did Sam spend on that slinky boy? 800.
That slinky girl.
Is that a F3 or an F4 Bengal?
F5, baby. Lowest
it really
of the low. That's the
Okay.
lowest of the low. That's what Bucket is. It's my other Bengal's niece.
All right, so hold on. 2K, 800, $40 at most. Sell the Rari and buy a leopard cat.
$69
Yo,
a month.
What are you talking about, Corey? You're cruising down the road in your Rari.
$3,000. $1,000.
Almost all these
Easy.
numbers are extremely far off. But it's all-
1K. Sam, let
Oof.
me get that cat. $1,111.
Why you gotta fucking put my cat to a monetary value? I'll just enjoy the tiny lawn cat.
A friend hook up at 1,000. $42,069. Chris Nelson with 1,300.
If
Shits
you
Remain
guess
says he
the-
got.
If you guess the right price, you can win my cat.
Okay, I'm gonna type it in chat right now.
Dude, I gotta shut down the show.
42,000. All right, boys.
$42,000 for Cat. Thank you very much.
How much does love cost?
How much exactly? That's what I say.
I'm asking you how much, because I could buy it.
What's love got to do with it?
See, chat knows. You guys know, chat.
Thanks, chat. I appreciate you guys. Guys, thank you for listening to our long ass show with the dads. We hope you enjoyed it.
Thank sponsors before we leave.
We fulfilled.
Silas says $1.99.
Hope we fulfilled all your wildest fantasies. Yes, Paco is correct. We need to thank our sponsors, of course. Should have done it much sooner, but here we are at the very end. Hopefully, you all still listening. Grid Life schedule for next year has it been fully announced, I believe?
Yes.
Yes, it has been fully announced. We are going to be going to Alpine Horizon, Colorado again. We're going to be going to Midwest again. Focusing on those two. This was the last South for the immediate future, but we're very excited that a lot of those resources are going to be going to Alpine Horizon, which was already badass for his inaugural Grid Life event last year in Colorado. This year is going to be twice as big, twice as badass, and we're very excited for all of that. Dates have just been announced. Get out there right now, get your tickets, go to Grid Life. Midwest, always awesome. Horizon is the new shit. It will be awesome as well. And we're going to be doing some more drift drafts with those dudes and announcing the drivers in a fun and incendiary way. and it'll be a good time. And then, Paco, do you want to thank our other sponsor?
Yeah, thanks Link ECU, because without Link ECU, Corey wouldn't have a running car, and I wouldn't be able to run the Corvette, because I'm also putting a Link ECU on the 2JZ for the Corvette. And if you guys are building a car or you need engine management, just skip everything else, go straight to Link ECU. Those guys really know what's going on. I mean, James Dean, Peter, those guys have it on their cars. They know what they're doing. So you want to know what you're doing as well, get yourself a Link.
Everyone's still talking about how much my cat cost. To be fully clear, I paid for the cat before my friend got a brain tumor, but I still gave as much money as I could for my friend's brain tumor. Again, you guys don't have to give anything. Corey, I feel like you're trying to guilt me for loving a tiny furry creature.
I just want to know, because I never bought an animal before.
A lot of people pay a lot of money for animals.
I know, but what does it cost?
I don't know.
It costs a lifetime.
I hate you so
it costs a lifetime of.
I have a free cat though too. To be fair, any haters out there, I have a stray cat that I took in as well, and he is a wonderful boy. His name's Timmy. You hear him a lot of shows. Anyways, nice. I'll see you guys later. See you next Tuesday. Right. We'll try to get a show out next week, but it's the holiday season.
Into the last one of the year.
Yeah, no promises, but we'll do our best and all that. But we love you. Hopefully we'll see you again, but if not, have a very happy holiday. We hope that you guys enjoy your friends, your families, your weird uncle. We hope your weird uncle's there, and hopefully he's not being pervy on your cousin.
The touchy,
but if he is,
uncle.
That's not cool. Tell him not to. If you happen to be at a holiday dinner with Corey, be careful for his calorie intake. He's on a keto diet now. No breads, no sugars. Right, Corey?
I'm doing something of what CAT stands for in chat real quick.
Oh my God, he's still obsessed about that.
No.
Yeah.
I'm not. I just want to show you what CAT stand for, because people. What does CAT stand for, Sam? Do you know what CATS stands for?
Cool as tits.
Wow.
Oh no, I'll show you what it is.
Wow.
So when people ask me if I have cats, I say, "Goddamn right, I do."
Yeah, no cats, straight pipes only. Thanks, Silas.
Cars, ass, tits, sex. Very good, Corey.
Cats. Do you got cats? Yeah.
Yeah. That's a good way to end the show. Thank you very much,
all right,
Corey.
guys.
Thank you, dads. Thank you, fans. Thank you, Patreons. Enjoy your prizes and stick around for
Thanks,
more.
Big
We'll see you
Balls.
guys soon.
All right.
Thanks, Big Balls.
Have a good night. Bye, Corey.
Guys, I'll see you soon. Later, guys. Twitch, I'll see you soon.
Thanks, Grid Royal.